Hello, sumo fans.
Woo!
Yeah. Welcome to the end of the year, and I'm pretty sure they could not have found a way to make it any more wild.
Yeah, first three-way playoff in 28 years.
Yeah.
That's just the preview of what's to come in this discussion.
Yeah. So first and foremost, congratulations to Abi. Not a sentence I thought I was going to say this time 5 days ago.
No, not on the radar, even when he was in the playoff contention.
We were discussing, there's so much to break down on this one, but we were discussing, we're like, okay, who's going to get in this? And like I had grouped in Abi with Hoshoryu, that like they had the puncher's chance, but like the realistic bet was on someone else, and then he just...
Perhaps we've underestimated the doom and gloom that we are facing in sumo today.
Well, there's a lot that happened. They gave us a treat to end this up.
They did.
I feel like we have feasted with the American Thanksgiving. We have also feasted on glorious sumo action and story. So we will we'll take a step back from the Yusho race, because we're going to start at the top as we always do, with Terunofuji, who had knee surgery and was not here. And this is the same thing that was happening when Hakuho and Kakuryu were doing the in and out, that you would have these crazy tournaments that were really only possible when there wasn't a big top dog. Takakeisho excluded, we'll get to him. But like you can tell Terunofuji wasn't here. Yeah,
like it's becoming ever more present that without a top guy, there's nothing to stabilize the system.
It's like the teacher leaves the room, and then the class just does whatever it wants.
They're flipping desks.
Yelling, throwing pencils. Oh, God. So Terunofuji is definitely out. Was definitely out for November. Like, there was no chance of him competing. There's a chance he sits out January. I'm also kind of hoping he does, just to make sure that he has the time, because this knee surgery, the hope is that it's resetting those egg timers in his knees. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, we lose him for 2 tournaments, and then we get him for maybe another 2 years.
Well, that would be the ideal situation.
That's the hope, definitely, because we need a lot of the contenders here.
They need some time.
They need some time. They're not ready yet. So if we lose our top dog,
oh, talk about chaos!
It's gonna be bad. So Terunofuji, I hope that your knee surgery went well. I hope that seeing what's going on is like really like getting them a little riled up. Like I imagine that, particularly for Hakuho, is that like I can imagine like when he was like he had his knee, his ankle, his knee, his leg, just like covered in ice, and he's just watching subpar sumo, and he's just does that, like when he did that thing when his lips, like he was eating them because he was mad and he couldn't do anything about it. So like he's not going to do that specifically, but I can't help but feel in the back of his mind, he's just like, I need to show these people.
I just picture Terunofuji sitting back watching, going, you wait just wait. I mean, whenever Hakuho was out, literally, he would show up unannounced to somebody's stable and beat everybody up.
Beat them up. Yeah.
So Terunofuji's not quite that type of Yokozuna, but like I said, I feel like it's in his head. Just wait.
Just you wait. That's the hope. So January, only come if you're ready. I'm fine waiting for March.
I really hope he waits till March, too.
I feel like that's the smart call.
Yeah, there's no reason to rush.
No reason to rush, particularly if coming back is going to cut your lifespan a bit. Just as long as we can get him.
Exactly.
As long as we can get him. So, next up, Takakeisho 12-3, Ozeki 1 East. Thank God somebody up here is shouldering that responsibility. There was a lot going on, particularly for Takakeisho, because top guy was off. So in terms of rank, he is the highest rank active wrestler in sumo for the November tournament. So everybody's eyes was on him. And everybody was just like, you better not...
Don't pull a Shodai.
Don't pull a Shodai. And he acted his rank. He fought really well. And the big thing for him is that continuing to evolve. I felt like the engine sputtered a little bit due to the injury and some power troubles. But he was doing stuff that wasn't typical. So the first thing, and this was just fun, whenever he does his thrust sumo, like it's like cannons going off. It's just he just goes forward.
Yep.
When he fought Kotonowaka, like I was also keenly interested because there's something about Kotonowaka that just pisses him off.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for haymakers to just concuss him, but he does that windmill supari thing. You know, like when people they do slap, slap, and then the hands. It was like a beautiful like artistic expression. The perfect arcs, and it's just like he doesn't do that normally. He brought that out because it was going to stagger Kotonowaka.
We're seeing a bit of like
strategy, and the big thing is he's finding ways to win without power. He still has the power. Like seeing him eject Ura was that is vintage Takakeisho.
There was lots of power sumo from him this time around, which was encouraging.
Also encouraging, like both that he had the power and then he won without it. The fight versus Hoshoryu, he shut Hoshoryu down. That was a tactical fight. Mm-hmm. Takakeisho knew that if he went guns blazing against Hoshoryu was probably going to get him.
He was going to sidestep, or he was going to grab the Mawashi and do a throw. He knows that Hoshoryu is very dangerous if he makes a mistake, and he knows that even though Hoshoryu has bulked up, he can't handle Takakeisho's power. So it's kind of like, I got to get him first.
Uh-huh. And it was all, like, I was watching the replay. I watched this a couple times because it was very very tense, very good stuff. Hoshoryu keeps trying to get the belt, Takakeisho is just using that Ozeki sense and just knocking him away, pushing him off the belt, pushing him to the side. And then he finally gets the angle, and that's when it hits. And this is stuff that Takakeisho, I would say, like, he would pull it out of his bag every so often.
But it wasn't a consistent thing.
It wasn't this well executed, or at least not so cleanly.
At least we couldn't see it anyway.
So I'm looking at this, and I'm like, if Takakeisho is keeping that hunger alive. By the way, on the last day, there's a little bit of a fist pump. And so, and there is that, like, and you have mentioned this in the past, that Takakeisho has been getting a little more, I'll say, emotional, even though he still has the stone face.
He's letting it come out.
Passionate, I'll say. Letting it drive him a little bit more. And I feel like it's a net positive.
Yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff bottled up in Takakeisho that he has to contain. Because like you said, the weight of this role is on his shoulders. He is the lone man at the top.
Yeah.
And yet, he doesn't even have the prestige of a Yokozuna where he can take a tournament off. He's in the absolute worst position you can be in. All the responsibility, all the burden, all the criticism, none of the break. And, we'll get into this a little bit more. You get a 12-3 and you don't win. Well, he didn't win. There's no outstanding performance prize.
Yeah. He gets nothing.
He gets nothing.
It's lonely at the top.
It's lonely. He doesn't even get a mention at the end. It's like, oh, look at Abi. Oh, look at Takayasu. It's like, yeah, you did okay. You did satisfactory.
Yeah.
It takes a very special type of person to weather the Ozeki burden. It's really the worst. It's really the worst rank in sumo.
So that 12-3. So he didn't win the Yusha. I'm pretty sure he wanted it.
Yeah, he showed he wanted it.
But what he did is that he showed, we've got one Ozeki that's good. This one's good. This one's got it. So also, file this away. Now, historically, Takakeisho and January do not mix well. However, this is considered a Yusho equivalent performance.
Oh, I didn't realize that. So if he wins in January, is he possibly promoted?
You can talk about it. It's a
conversation that can happen.
I feel like if it was a 13-2, a little more definitive, a 12-3. But if he knocks everybody off the block.
Yeah, because he did win his last match. I mean, yes. He lost in the playoff.
In regulation, he was tied for first.
It's not like he was let in because someone else lost.
Correct.
He won. He was in control of his destiny up until the point of the playoff. That's interesting.
I would. So.
Well, I mean, he did need Takayasu to lose, but my point is, he did what he had to do.
Yes.
It wasn't I lost and somebody else lost, and so I gained into the playoffs. He won his match. He did his thing. Lost in, and if he had drawn a different, very important for you all to go watch Sumo Primetime. it actually showed you how they determined who was going to fight who. They draw lots.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes. So everybody needs to go watch it because so many interesting things were shown. They drew lots. So if Takakeisho had drawn the lot where he went against Takayasu first and won, he could have lost to Abi and they would have fought again because he's the first guy to 2.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of bad luck in there. It takes nothing away from Abi, but just there were other scenarios. Once you get to the playoff, it gets just very wild.
So I would please to say at the end of the year, despite everything going on our screen right now, there's one man we can count on.
Yes.
There is one man we can build that house with.
Whatever that looks like. Even if it's not as strong of a house as Hakuho's, it's still a house.
Still a house. We've got it. So Takakeisho, thank you for that. Got some suction cups on the back. That was new.
Yeah, that's some sort of oxygen treatment. It's like a trendy thing that athletes do. Some people call it a complete scam. Some people say it works. Who knows? But it does tell you he's sore.
He's sore. He's in pain.
No.
But he's also 12-3. He got it.
Yeah, and he, I want to quickly talk about the Ichinojo hit and shift. That's a wise move.
Yes.
And that's part of what you were saying about him doing different things. He can't go headfirst into Ichinojo. His career is going to be over.
Yeah, and also like he, I feel like lesser men would have just taken the loss. And when there was Takakeisho, there was a couple of times he's just going to crash into, he's just going to let whatever happens. But this time he's just like, I'm going to figure this out.
Right.
That's the evolution. This is why like he's the true Ozeki.
Yes.
The pure, like...
He never stops trying to win the tournament.
Ozeki all the way down. Ozeki to the core, through the suffering, through the pain.
Knows what this is.
Knows exactly what he's getting into.
Willing to go through anything to just do what he's supposed to do.
And by the way, full disclaimer, getting to Ozeki is a massive, arduous, thankless effort.
Yes.
And those who have come before us, we do not mean to disparage you without actually calling you out first. This is just us saying that he is the textbook example of how you handle being an Ozeki, and he's showing it and proving it again and again.
And everybody should watch him who's coming up. Like, this is what it is.
This is what it is.
It's not pretty.
It's not glorious.
So if you don't like it, then quit now.
Yeah.
Or figure out a way to become Yokozuna.
Yeah, get all the way up.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is gonna be up and down, topsy turvy all the way through. So Shodai, Ozeki 1 West, fate has finally made up its mind, and at 6 and 9, it's in a way it's a mercy. It's not a 7 and 8. But at the same time, like we have beaten this horse to death in the past about Shodai's lack of performance, about how there is an Ozeki in there somewhere. But if that Ozeki is only going to show up 6 days out of the tournament,
then he's not Ozeki.
He's not Ozeki. And everything that we were talking about with Takakeisho, the thanklessness, the arduous nature, the fact that your best is never enough. I mean, that's what's happening to him.
Right. It's almost like Shodai can't handle that pressure.
Yeah, it is. And
it's not necessarily his wrestling alone.
It's the thing. And so initially, like when I was writing this stuff down, I was just like, okay, you've got home crowd advantage. You've got some good sumo. He starts out 2-1. So starts out with a little bit, like sometimes he's a little spotty. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I wonder if like, first off, I'm like, if you have home field advantage and you still lose, there is no hope for you. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe he needs an empty crowd.
Yeah. Maybe the home crowd is actually
maybe it's
pressure.
Working against him.
Yeah.
I don't know. But what we do know is he will be in Sekiwake, and then he will need 10 wins. And as a mercy, at least to my nerves and my beating heart, he's going to get those 5 losses a lot faster than he's going to get these 8.
Yeah.
Or 6 losses, technically. But I feel like
you'll know very quickly.
We'll know very quickly whether or not he's going to get those 10 wins. We're not going to have to wait long for that impending disappointment.
It's such a tough thing because, and I'm going to save what I'm actually thinking about for Takayasu. Because it applies to Shodai as well. But I'm making that note. Remind me if I don't say it.
Yep.
the thing about Shodai is he just... It seems like he doesn't want to do it anymore.
It does feel that way.
It doesn't seem just like, it's like, this isn't worth it. That's how it felt. Maybe that wasn't the case.
He always had that Eeyore slump.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of times that he lost, and he's just like, oh, I wanted that one.
Right.
And then it goes in, and I do, like, if he wanted it badly enough. And in the past, he has. He's
right.
scraped
We've seen
those.
that he can do it.
That, like, you would get that week 2, you would go to him and we're like, by the way, you need to win out, and all that's left for you to fight are Sanyaku or higher. And he does it.
Right. He had an easier path this tournament than the previous ones.
There was the one he was Katoban, and then he got 9. He was like 10-5 at the end.
Right. Against the toughest guys.
He was like 0-5, 1-5. We're like, how are you going to get out of this? And he just wins out. So there is some drive. I think maybe fatigue is the answer to what was different this time.
Maybe.
I feel like that's maybe what it is.
Maybe he's got nothing left.
And this is in a way, this is the Juryo penalty box, but just higher up. Yeah. And that there are some people we're going to talk about a few people who just...
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, boy. Anyway, in a way, the demotion, the failure is a way to rebuild, is a mercy in a way. Same way with, like, the injury and some of the suspensions. Like, the end result is somebody had the time to reflect and then grow stronger from the failure. So, I don't know if that's going to apply to Shodai, but that's like, this is how this opportunity can go. I fully expect him to, follow in Mitakeumi's footsteps.
I do too, but we do know that he's capable, but I do expect exactly the same thing with Mitakeumi.
Yes, in which case then we can sort of watch both of them in like a case study.
Yeah.
And now how's Shodai going to deal with this? Is he just going to get comfortable, or is he going to build back?
Right, because what do you do once you're Ozeki? Now, like with all the other guys before Shodai and Mitakeumi, Tochinoshin, we knew he had bad legs, so it's like, okay, once he fought at Ozeki, he's just trying to keep his career going. Same with Goeido, same with Takayasu. We'll talk about Takayasu.
In a bit.
But Goeido retired. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to not be Ozeki. As soon as he was going to get the demotion, he retired as an Ozeki. Shodai and Mitakeumi should have many years left in sumo, and they're not necessarily injured as long as I know. So what do you do from this point?
It's a rebuilding. It's all mental. It's a rebuilding of the mental toughness.
Yeah.
And for people like them, there may just be a bloated Sekiwake, a bloated Kamasubi.
Right. Someone who's better than the rank, but no better than the rank.
These kinds of people, they need something between Sanyaku and Ozeki. There's that, because it's such a big jump to get up there, and then it is so hard to hold it.
Yep.
And that's, I would say that should never exist, quite frankly. It needs that, you need that steep hill for it to mean something.
You're not gonna be able to beat people at the level that you want. Like if you're at Ozeki, you're not gonna do Ozeki sumo if you can't leap up to that level.
Correct.
It's like a self-sustaining situation.
Yeah. And so I feel like the story of 2023 for Shodai and Mitakeumi is how they pick up the pieces. Where do they go? How do they handle it? And like you said, both of them, they've got at least 5 years of this to go.
Right. So there's a whole other career out there, whatever that's going to look like.
That's 5 years to get your stuff better. And then you look at other people, like Tobizaru was in the top division for 2 years, and he touches Sanyaku. He builds that up.
Right.
And will they be able to build back up? Will they be able to do something? That is a question we're not going to know the answers to.
Right. We're going to be along for the ride. So sort of mark your calendars for November 2023, and we're going to see where these two guys are. But for the time being, Shodai I can tell you where he's not. He is not Ozeki. No.
And I will be so glad to be wrong, but Shodai is not going to be Ozeki in March.
And I think everybody's a little tired, including Shodai. Like, we want somebody else up there.
Yeah, we need room.
We need somebody to come up and, like, be an Ozeki all the time.
All the time. We need a full-time Ozeki.
Yes.
So, somebody who's was there, and now Wakatakakage, Sekiwaki won East 8-7. So
he squeaked it out.
So he did. So he got his 8th win, and he didn't wait for the last day. Both are nice. 8-7 kills the momentum he had with the 11 wins in September, which is a little unfortunate.
Yep.
So I'm not actually sure what happened with Wakatakakage out there, because the way he was losing were in ways that he was basically not losing before. Like, people were able to sort of dismantle his power a little bit. They were able to circle around him. They were able to outmuscle him. They were able to dictate pace. It was a little, I don't know.
Yeah, like what happened?
Something happened out there. Now, again, saved rank. I feel like that's
a high standard for us these days.
That's a high standard. This is, we were running low on people who can hold rank higher than Megashiro 1.
Yeah.
And so he's able to hold that stuff, but he went from Ozeki bid to treading water, which is a significant step back.
In only one tournament.
Now, this is everybody has a bad tournament. Maybe
there's an injury.
Maybe there's an injury. Maybe he maybe Fukuoka is just, give him the runs. I don't know. Who knows?
The lack of crowd.
It's something happened to him out there, sort of put the brakes on his momentum, because we were fully expecting him to get double digits.
Yeah, and be in the playoff
and then
contention.
Well, if not in the Yusho contention, then in January the story was going to be, can he get it?
Right.
Now the story in January is, I don't know if you can promote anybody if they had an 8-7.
Yeah, so we actually got into this on the live stream a little bit. We were talking about Wakatakakage, which, shout out to everybody who showed up this week to the live streams. You guys made it really, really fun, and we had lots and lots of good conversations. Somebody brought up that Wakatakakage is 28 years old, and he really can't afford, typically somebody who's going to be Ozeki shoots up there younger.
Mm-hmm.
You get 21, 22, maybe 23. He's getting too old to be falling out like this. It's showing a bad pattern. Like, even if he does get promoted to Ozeki, is he going to drop out just like Shodai and Mitakeumi? Like, we're running short on people who can sustain the effort. And so whatever happened to him is very discouraging, because now he has to start all over. Because I don't know that maybe the JSA is willing to start taking more risks, but they're getting burned every single time.
They're in a weird situation where
they can't win.
None
of us can win, really.
You can't, if you give somebody too much credence, then they're just going to sort of drag it through the mud. But if you hold the line, then there's going to be no one there.
Right. It's like, so put in somebody who's good enough.
I think actually Shodai may have gotten promoted to Ozeki with a sub 10 win performance, but because he had such a clip going, they let him in.
And now what's interesting is with Takakeisho, they actually punished him because they didn't he had reached 33 wins the tournament before, and they made him do another tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time they had 3 other Ozeki, and they were like, you haven't proven yourself to us. There was a good character build for that, though, because all these guys they've let in on technicalities, they're just falling out.
It would. So he still has 19 wins total with the 11 and the 8. So if he does have a 14-win January with a cup,
well, we'll get into it, but we were kind of having this conversation about Hoshoryu too.
We were.
These guys are they're killing me. That's all I can say.
So he needs to have an absolutely gangbusters January for even to have this discussion. And then on top of that,
he has to put it together again in March too, though, I think.
Exactly.
It can't be just one tournament. We can't have these one tournament guys.
I think that if he does well in January, he gets 11, he gets 12 wins, then they'll say do it in March and you're in.
Now, just to highlight an important thing, Wakatakakage did win the annual most wins for the year. So that means something. It does kind of give you a little bit of clout. I think you get a cash prize for that too.
Possibly, yeah. But he won it. His competition was Hoshoryu and Wakatakakage, which is also interesting because that none of the Ozeki or the Yokozuna were even in contention.
Crazy, right?
So,
Yeah, that tells you what kind of situation we're in.
Yeah, but at 8 and 7, he keeps rank. That's good. And if he does really well in January, then maybe he can get some puppy dog eyes, go up to the Sumo Association.
Well, if Terunofuji's not there, we're in the same boat we just were in, where it's a free-for-all, and now we got a new tournament winner that people are going to be discussing. It's usually when the eyes are off of you that you come up and surprise people.
A little bit. How it's the camera focus had its way with people, I feel.
Yes.
Speaking of.
Yes.
Hoshoryu, Sekiwaki 1 West, 11 and 4. So we were going into this in the preview, and we're like, Hoshoryu is holding rank, but now he needs to show us something if he wants to prove to us that he's worth our time.
I know.
He nearly gets the cup.
Right. So I guess that was a good challenge.
Yeah. So here's the thing about Hoshoryu and sort of why he was always fun to watch in the begin with. He doesn't just win his matches. There's always a style. There's flair. There's excitement. There's
a celebration that's not necessarily over the top, but you see it.
Yeah. Like the way he fights. Not to say that Terunofuji is boring. Quite the opposite. It's somewhat terrifying to see Hercules in the flesh just carrying people around. But Hoshoryu, he does the crazy techniques. He's always active. What he did against Midorifuji was called a Kawazugake, which when I looked it up, it gave me a list of judo throws because he just took it from judo.
Right.
It was that you get the person, you trip him while moving backwards, crazy stuff.
Like something you would see in an anime, not a real life thing.
Wild stuff he's able to pull off. What's the other thing he did? Him and a couple other people have that slinky spine that when you have pusher thrusters go into them, they just eat it.
Right, they sort of do like the limbo.
They get pushed back, but they keep all their balance, and he keeps moving. He's a smaller guy, which you also forget. I mean, when you have like Midorifuji and Kotonowaka, like the actual small people, you forget he's on the smaller side, that he does sort of need to punch up sometimes, but he does it well. And then he spun 360 degrees while trying to throw Tobizaru before it finally landed. Like, he's this kind of like excitement, this kind of doing all this stuff, this like overbrimming talent is, I feel like that's the X factor.
That is the X factor.
So with Wakatakakage, which he fights amazingly, and I love the way that you don't understand where the power comes from in that tiny frame, but he makes it happen. Comparing these two, like if Hoshoryu was in Wakatakakage's situation with 8 and 7, but all of his matches were these exciting, really interesting fights, I feel like that's the thing that they're looking for.
Yes, there were all these guys. Like if anybody was watching King Tamayama, he was throwing a lot of flashback matches in.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing the quality of sumo that used to exist, where these guys the top guys all had a huge bag of tricks, and they had speed and they had power, and it didn't matter what their size was. Hoshoryu's like a blast from the past.
It's that callback to the ways of old.
Right. The guy that you look at him and you say, of course he's a top guy. He has everything you need to be called a top guy, except for he doesn't have the results yet.
Well, this is pretty much as close as he's gotten to it. So
it's a good sign.
It's a good sign. He basically once the pressure hit here, I feel like all three of these people Hoshoryu can and will beat in the future. So I feel like some of it was just how were they handling it? Was it their moment? And I'm also looking at this like, this is also what Hoshoryu does. He gets into these situations, the nerves get to him a little bit, he absorbs it, he makes it his own, and then when he's back there again, he's stronger. Right. So this is the warning shot. This is starter's pistol. You hear it and you're standing at the finish line, and then you just see people running at you.
Yeah, I think that I'll tell you, I think he lost the tournament when he lost to Oho for a couple of reasons.
That's a good point.
One being that they came up together and they are rivals and they have a history and they know each other's sumo very well, and Hoshoryu was gunning to win and Oho had a plan. When he did that sidestep, he knew.
It was
like at the edge.
smooth.
He knew what he was doing. That wasn't an accident.
Mm-hmm.
When Hoshoryu lost to Oho, it just took a lot out of the sails. And facing Takakeisho the next day, we know Takakeisho has dominated him. He's way more powerful. And I think he's a little intimidating to Hoshoryu. And there's a little bit of bad blood there, too. But if he hadn't just lost to Oho, that Takakeisho match looks different.
I can see that. I can see the momentum being a big factor.
Yeah, so momentum shifted for him there. I really think like that was it. It takes a lot. It takes a lot of experience, and it takes a lot of like overcoming the losses to be able to get through losses. So he just hasn't had enough time of the hard, crushing losses.
In January, I see him.
Yes, he has a potential in January.
Pointing for those bleachers and saying, it's my turn now.
Right, because like you said, he absorbs it and he learns from it. He had some great lessons in this tournament, including, I am still the young guy. I am still the green guy. In particular, Takakeisho is a nice sort of frame to look at. He's the only one, but he knows where the difference in power is. It's like, this guy is X amount more powerful than me, so I have to get that power if I want to win. And that is what you need. You need to keep growing. So he can't just rest on Hoshoryu of November. He needs to be Hoshoryu 2.0. And he knows that. That's the thing about Hoshoryu. Yep. He knows it. He lives it. He breathes it. This is important to him. That's another factor. A lot of guys right now don't have the same heart that the guys of the past had. Not blaming them for it, but you can see it in their sumo.
Yeah, and you look at these people, and this is sort of what we were talking about with Shodai. You're just like, do you got it in you? Like, you go to Takakeisho and you say, he's got it in him. He wants it every day, all day. You know, you go to Hoshoryu, you're like, he's not going to stop until he runs out of space in his house for the trophies.
Yeah, once he gets going.
He's just like, I'm going to dismantle everything in front of me. That's his mindset. You look at him, like, then you look at Shodai, you look at Mitakeumi, you're like, they have a limit.
Exactly, and we think we might have seen their limit. I am going to bring up something that everybody's really tired of. I'm going to do it anyway.
Do it.
When Hoshoryu hanka'd Sadanoumi, now it's the hanka, not hanka, sort of a shift. We've beaten this topic to death, but I want to bring up a different element of it. When you are Takakeisho who hankas, you're a jerk. When you're Hoshoryu who hankas, you look weak. And that's just my opinion. If he feels he has to some wrestlers, if he has to hanka to get that win so that he just can win out, I actually think that shows weakness to your enemy. Maybe it isn't weakness, but I could see somebody pouncing on that and saying he's not confident enough.
Your point has merit. I'll start with that. That whenever somebody hankas, in the back of your mind, you're like, particularly somebody this high up, you're like, maybe you can do better. For this one in particular, I call this one the tactical henka.
Okay.
So like you have something like what Chiyoshoma, what Abi do. It's the complete lunge to the side.
Right.
So what he does is things that Harumafuji does, that Terunofuji does, that Hakuho does.
Oh yes.
That they move and then they don't just slap down; they grab the belt to throw. Mm-hmm. In that case, like, it's a stratagem in a way. We'll be talking more about henkas later, probably, inevitably. But so that I'm looking at that as almost like he's like inheriting that aspect of sumo. Along with everything else that he's learned from the greats as well. So in the back of his mind, he's like, this is a card in my deck that I need to play if I think I'm going to have some trouble. Now, I would agree also at the same time that that is probably, now if you look at when that was, he was 8-1 right here. So the nerves are probably kicking in because this was his this was his Kachikoshi moment.
Yep.
He was 7-1. He wants it in the back of his mind. He has to be thinking, this is my chance. I got to hit go. But then maybe he just, maybe he woke up wrong. Maybe he got in his own head. Maybe something there's Sadanoumi knows that no one else does. There's also that factor that there's some wrestlers that just fight better against or fight worse against. That's also apparently why Shodai always beats Takayasu.
Right. Amazing.
There's some rock, paper, scissors going on. So I would agree if Hoshoryu was as good as he wants to be, he wouldn't need the henka. Mm-hmm. But I'm also going to say I'm expecting that the henka non-henka, the H and H, the Mongolian henka, however you want to say it, that's gonna stay in his pocket.
With you bringing up that point, it makes me want to ask you your opinion on this. Do you think that it's always in his head going in that at some point in the tournament he will use that technique? He just doesn't know when.
Maybe. For Hoshoryu, I think when he was fighting in September, I mentioned he has what I call input lag. Sometimes that, in a way, like he's thinking of too much.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, I would think that like he's got like 100 techniques in the back of his head that he can use at any one point. Like when it comes to the Tachiya, you come in with a game plan.
But things happen.
But sometimes things happen. So it's one of, to oversimplify this, I would say it's one of two things. That he goes in with a game plan and then just either in the moment he's reading the opponent, he's like, this isn't gonna work, I don't know what the plan B is, and he just henkas because he can't figure it out. Or he goes into the day saying, this is how I'm gonna deal with it.
This is the day that I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna give him the credit that sort of in the moment, because there is the presence. You always talk about that, like you feel the aura of the enemy. You're staring each other down for 5 minutes while you're doing this.
Right.
Just techniques. When you watch the NHK Grand Sumo highlights, like they cut out that whole part.
Right, you gotta watch it live to see how long that is.
And then like it's 5 minutes of like the guy comes up, you're staring at the guy in the face, in the back of your mind are like, we're gonna go, and it's win or lose, live or die for some people. Some people are like, oh, it's another day at the office, but that's not how Hoshoryu thinks.
No, but interesting point, because I'm actually not trying to dog him on this. I'm trying to bring up points to think about. Someone like Hoshoryu, once again, I always took issue with henkas with people who don't henka, but we had some very interesting conversations about that on the live stream, which I will get to when we get to Abi. Mm-hmm. But one nice tactic, first of all, people should expect it from Hoshoryu. He is a smaller guy, and we know he has, like you said, sort of this Mongolian henka or whatever. It does throw people off their game at the Tachiai because they don't know if it's coming. And I think that is the intention of it. So, maybe it is kudos to him for having this tactic.
There is a mental game to it. You're trying to guess it.
Maybe I'm softening because everyone's forcing me to accept the henka. That's probably what it is. Thank you, everyone. Anyway.
You can die on that hill. That's fine.
No, it's fine. I like discussing the elements of
it.
This technique.
For January, win, lose, or henka, Hoshoryu has the momentum to go get it.
And it would be, I think a lot of people really want to see him do it.
A lot of people want to see him do it. And it feels like he's working his way up there. So I'm like, congratulations, and also watch out.
Yeah.
Because that's expectation on him, and also pressure on everyone else.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
Now we have to go down again.
Go up and down, up and down. This Tamawashi is a down and an up at the same time. We're fine, but Mitakeumi, 6-9, Sekiwaki 2 West. Starts out 4-1. Like right here when he beats Tobizaru, and like this is a game Tobizaru. Tobizaru's not messing around.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, he's got it. We're fine.
He'll be okay.
And then he has this collapse. And everything falls apart. And not only does he lose his Ozeki rank, but he's probably out of Sanyaku with that because they're not going to be pleased.
Not with a 6-9.
So here, check this out for me. I'm wondering if there's a pattern.
Oh.
So
I love patterns. Let's see.
So here we have, he's doing well. He's 4-1, and then he has a 6 in the middle. He has a 6-loss streak, and everything falls apart here. And then he tries to get it back together. Look at September.
No way.
Starts out okay. So like 3-2, we're like okay with the 3-2. We're not as optimistic as the 4-1, but we're like, oh, maybe he'll scrap together, and then everything falls apart for 6 days. Something happens on that weekend.
Interesting.
This doesn't happen anywhere else. Everything else, it's fine. Everything's fine. He's got weird things going on. I don't know what this is, but this exact same thing happened 2 tournaments in a row.
That is very interesting.
And a lot of the stuff I was going to say This tournament, I'd already said last tournament. Like, I'm writing down my notes.
It was a total repeat.
I'm like, this is deja vu. Because it was, like, the same thing. Day 5, going into day 6, you're just like, I think we've got it. I think everything's okay. It's not just that he's winning, but the way he's winning, the way it's urgency, his power, that killer instinct. And then it all dies out. And then he walks himself out. He's like, when he fought Midorifuji here, it was like Midorifuji was doing all the attacking and he was just standing there. And that was a long fight.
Yeah.
And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, you, come on. I'm like yelling at the monitor, but he can't hear me. But so this is super, super uncanny.
So one thing is, whatever the injury is, it must not be healed.
Might be it.
And I wonder if Mitakeumi the kind of guy who just doesn't have the will to fight through the pain. So I'm sort of giving him this, okay, maybe he's got an injury, but everybody's injured all the time. Mm-hmm. And we know about Mitakeumi. There's some really great things about Mitakeumi, and there's some things that don't work so well. And one is real personable guy, really good with the fans, really wants to go out there and show his stuff. But the downside is when things aren't working, then it's like, well, I'm not going to do it then.
It does. It falls apart.
So completely. I'm guessing the injury is not healed. I don't know to what degree it's working and not working, but I'm thinking he doesn't have the will to fight through the pain. And, from a personal judgment, I get that. I can't even, I sprained my ankle once. I'm like, I can't live. I can't even pick up the phone. I'm terrible. I don't know if I'd go out and fight somebody. But for the world of sumo, it takes being that kind of person.
Just being a little insane.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be insane to be a sumo wrestler. Mm-hmm. You have to be insane to do everything against what is good for your survival. So maybe Mitakeumi is just too sane. Maybe it's just, he's like, I'm not going to, this is not working. I'm not going to break my back or whatever. So, yeah, maybe by day 5 or day 6, the injury's really, really nagging.
Something starts biting him and it just won't let go.
Right. And then towards the end, he's like, well, you know what? Maybe I can push it out because there's only a few more days left. So there's a little bit of how much can he be pushed under ridiculous circumstances
before it finally doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I bet you he's an awesome guy.
Probably.
That, that can work against you in sumo. The biggest jerks are the ones who do well in sumo.
It certainly is a beneficial
It's
trait.
beneficial to be I don't care about my opponent and I don't care about you or you. I'm just going to win, So that's my guess, but we're going to have to see. We had that long conversation about him and Shodai.
It all applies.
Once the Ozeki spotlight is off, maybe things change again. But who knows if I just don't see him going back to Ozeki, but I could see him being career Sanyaku, which is what he always was.
That felt like where he was comfortable.
Yeah.
So maybe he's just on his way back there.
You make plenty of money there. You know, you could look at it as, this is my job. I have fun doing my job, and this is my ceiling.
Yeah.
So
special commendation to Hiro Morita, who...
he does not hide his bias.
No.
At all.
So he is doing sumo prime time. He is telling everybody he's a massive fan of Mitakeumi, and he's just broadcasting to the world, look at my best favorite wrestler crash and burn. And that is
even the most recent one, when he's talking about all these playoff contenders and he's talking about no one else. He brought up Mitakeumi. You've got to watch it. I'm telling you.
I didn't.
When he did that, I'm like, Hiro, you can't help yourself. You just love this man.
That level of dedication. Just everybody has that thing that they're just I'm going to be a fan of this even if it kills me. I feel like he would rather die than not be a Mitakeumi fan. I was just I felt that I was oh man, I feel for this man.
And that's why I think Mitakeumi is probably a pretty awesome person.
Probably.
For people to be so attached to him, he's probably pretty cool. So, your fanboying is just amazing. It is so committed.
so good. But Mitakeumi, I'll see you in rank and files in January, and then then
go win a tournament.
We'll all see what happens together at that point.
He's still leading a whole bunch of guys in numbers of tournaments of Yusho. So
he's got a cup closet, and it's. We were talking about this end of year. You wrap everything up, new year, clean slate. There is no slate cleaner than not having any expectations.
Exactly, and some guys do very well when that's the case.
And another Chaos Yusho.
Oh yeah.
If there's no Terunofuji, that is as fertile ground as you can get from Mitakeumi. No one's looking at him. No one has anything that they're gonna expect him to do.
But he's gonna hurt Hiro very bad. If he wins a Yusho, because he's going to be like, Ozeki again. And then it's
goodness gracious.
Poor guy.
Hang in there, Mitakeumi. Yeah. So, Tamawashi. We are going to 6-9, Kamasubi 1 East. We were talked about how you get that target on your back if you're the Yusho winner and you're the rank and filers. And we were like, maybe Tamawashi was the guy that bucked the trend. Not so.
There's a reason there's a trend.
Yep. So I do feel like this was 100% just everybody was just like, we're not going to let him do this again to us. There was everybody just focused him. They had their eyes on him.
It's like, I have Tamawashi today.
I got it. Yeah. They're like, okay, I got to study for this exam. Speaking of new Kimarite, Gasho Hineri, which is clasped hand twist down.
What?
That's when he grabbed Ura by the back of the neck and then just cranked him.
That was this is what I say about Tamawashi is he is vicious, man. That looked like he was gonna rip Ura's head off.
That looked like it was about to be a crime scene. The way that the violent just cranking of the neck and then Ura gets back up. I'm like, oh thank God.
Yeah, like Ura does his usual thing, like bouncing around, and Tamawashi's just looking at him like, oh, so you survived.
You survived it.
Interesting. So I was going for the kill there. That was a little wild.
Perhaps I'll try again harder later.
Yeah, I think everybody should be afraid of him.
A little bit afraid. Also, watching him against Daieisho, the two of those guys had a great spirited scrap. So this is 100% Tamawashi. Just everybody just got together and said, not this guy, not today.
There's an added factor too. He's 36 years old.
37.
He had to do all those events and stuff winning the tournament.
That is an important thing that. Particularly for people who haven't. Now this is a second, but
he's older now.
Yeah, he got to do the.
You got to go to the parties. You got to go to the press. You've got to do the parades. You're not training as much, and you're so much older. It's like he's not getting any sleep.
Yeah.
So I mean, that factors into. I mean, nobody's Hakuho with the secret. I mean, Tamawashi is immortal.
Yeah,
but Hakuho was like drinking the magic elixir to do the things he was doing.
Magic stuff. So. I look at the 6-9. I'm like, everything's fine because the wins he had were like just the way he won before, and a lot like there's a couple of his losses. I'm just like, you guys are watching tape.
Yeah,
come on, you bet.
He felt it. He was like, how did you get me there?
Exactly. Just looking at these people, like they practiced for this.
There was lots of dirty looks Tamawashi was giving people.
So we're all fine. It's all good, and he's just gonna keep smacking people and. It'll be violent and beautiful, and God bless him.
Until one day he suddenly retires and we don't see it coming. Because that's how retirements work in sumo.
Oh, God, we'll get to that. Oh, boy. All right, so we do have, Kiribayama, 8-7, Kamasubi, 1 West. So let me tell the story of Kiribayama right now. He gets his second Kachikoshi in Sanyaku. So like all these people are just going to get dumped and he's going to keep it. So he's going to be the last standing Kamasubi. These last 3 matches are the story of him. When he was 8-4, he was looking at building an Ozeki run of his own. And I believe that he could do it. And then he loses to Onosho.
Oh
no! So Meisei, I'll give that one to Meisei, and I'll give this one to Hoshoryu.
Yeah.
So Kiribayama it's the small incremental growth. So the difference between doing well and an Ozeki run are these last 3 days, and this is what he has to work on now. The rest of this is fine, and so we were talking before about how everybody was picking a Tamawashi, and Takakeisho was changing his strategy based on who he was fighting. This is becoming Kiribayama's specialty. And not only is he changing the way he's fighting, he's beating people at their own game. Yeah, so he push wins against Tamawashi, by the way. He out-thrusts him. I saw that. I was like, what? But he always was doing that.
Right.
And then I believe he belt wins. Let me just look at this. So outbelts Midorifuji, outbelts Mitakeumi, outbelts Kotonowaka, outbelts Ryuuden. So everybody else who are the grapple specialists, he's beating them on the grapple. And he's beating people on the thrusts with his own push sumo. I'm like, this is a dangerous individual, but he's 8-7.
And like you said, that's the story. You look at the record at the end, and you're like, this doesn't make sense.
The knife's edge. And it starts all the way down here. So we're talking about all the Ozeki problems and the getting to Ozeki. And like he's just trying to get that started, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
And he can do it. I'm looking at Kiribayama, I'm just like, you're so close. He's just it's a hair's breadth away.
It is
from it happening.
A lot of the losses are like, a hair's breadth away. He's not getting dominated. No. He's just not winning. I wonder if there's I don't think there's even a fatigue factor. He didn't look tired.
No. You throw him in an Iron Man match, he'll come out the other side.
Yeah,
fine.
That's right. He's an endurance guy.
He's an endurance guy. So this is like
bad
for
luck.
Me, wow, this is kind of when I'm looking. I'm like, this is how close sumo gets sometimes.
Yeah, that
somebody could have had, like, so mathematically he was out of the Yusho race right here when Takakeisho knocked him out. He was technically
he crushed a lot of dreams this tournament.
He did. This is so like thinking about it. So like he had 3 losses here. So like he was in that sort of in it pack, and then Takakeisho puts him down. So right here, right there, he's 6-4. So like he's not going to get the Yusho race, but then if he wins out, that's his own run started. That's his own spark. So just to be so close to it and then come out with an 8-7 there's a lot going on in these 15 days for Kiribayama. Yeah,
and I'm sure he's going to go back and, I'm pretty sure Kakuryu is still there because...
I guess in a way, this is everything that we were already talking about him. He's that guy who just comes into work, does really good sumo, tries his best. Nothing crazy, no injuries, no scandals, God willing. But
he's just holding the line.
He's just holding that line. It's just like this is the everyman you talk about. You're just like, I just want to see that guy who just works hard at it every day and just gets a little bit better. Like that is him, and that's what this is. Right. But it just felt like there were moments this tournament, particularly with all the other chaos going around him. I thought this was the start of the engine. And it just didn't work out this time.
Yeah, and it keeps happening. So we can only hope for a new year and a new start.
New year, new start. So this is, I don't want to plop too much on him because like how much could I realistically say with an 8-7 he's got going for him right now?
Right.
Hard. Compared to this.
Well, I think basically the reason the conversation happens is just simply because we are in need of guys.
We are in need
to go higher.
And you look at Kiribayama, you're like, he's got what it takes.
Right.
He just needs to get there, and he's not there.
The problem is we need guys who can stay there too. So maybe he needs to sit in the muck.
This is where I sort of go back to myself. I'm like, you keep talking about how people need time.
And then you're like, hurry up.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like,
what is wrong with you, John?
I'm just like talking out of both sides of your mouth. I go over to the mirror. I'm just like, you're a dumbass. You know that? Come on.
It can't be helped. We have our desires. We have our needs.
Passion. It's the passion coming out.
That's right. We're all hypocritical here,
Oh, goodness gracious. But anyway, Kiribayama becomes the Sanyaku mainstay, then goes from there. That's my hope for next year.
Right. We just keep quietly rooting him on, and he's going to keep making his adjustments, and
go get him.
Someday it's going to work.
So moving on, this is another knife's edge. Tobizaru 7-8.
What a
Kamatsubi 2 East. So he almost shook that Sanyaku curse.
Almost.
Sort of like with Tamawashi, there's a reason it's a trend.
Yeah.
And that's because it keeps happening. he gave us a damn good sight of it.
Even with the 7 and 8, he worked so hard.
So hard.
You can see he tightened up his sumo a lot from the simple fact that I won the bet. He was not flying out into the first row.
He wasn't. I had written that down. So, yeah, well, very, very important to clear ledgers. So, there was a running out into the stands wager. I believe it was over-under on 3. So, Mai was betting he would be in the stands at least 4 of the matches. And then you said that was under. So, when I was counting, if he steps out of the ring, I didn't count it. It has to be running down the rank or into the cushions. He did 2 of those. But what he did a lot more this time was getting chucked into the dirt. And that was because of the chains in sumo, as you said. He's doing a lot more yotsu belt stuff. He's doing a lot more grappling. He's not doing the hit and run stuff that he was doing for so long. Now, he still does do that kind of stuff.
But he's been able to actually keep himself like composed and in the ring
and in
the fight,
almost serious. Which is, I mean, he's still the flying monkey. He still does the stuff. And by the way, that's how he beat Wakatakakage when he fought him. Is that he was a combination of his old fighting and his new, because he kept going in and thrusting on, like, not the hit and run, but like smashing into him, but then he kept the angles going. He just prevented Wakatakakage from building up his base of power and then just dismantled him from a strafe attack. It was awesome. And then he's 7 and 8. So it's just like, well, that is about as close as you can get. And the way he fought, he left it all out there. And I feel like that's almost more important than winning it.
Yeah, I'll say this too. When he fought Takakeisho, who he beat, I mean, that's the difference between Takakeisho winning the whole Yusho.
Yeah, he played foil.
He played foil to Takakeisho. He went slap for slap with Takakeisho, and I mean, that was a brawl. That was like, we forgot we were doing sumo, and we're just like brawling out in the alley. And that was the first time, even in the win, where when it was over, there was no smile on his face. He was like full of like something.
He got it. He was fired up.
Yeah, so I do actually think that took him a little out of his game. Right after that is when the losses started to come. There could have been like a concussion. There could have been like just something that moment changed the rest of the tournament for him, and I'm not exactly sure why. But hopefully he comes back and he's learned a lot from this. He came very, very close.
Very close.
Very close. I just hope he builds on this. He has something really good to build from, even in the loss.
Yes. And that's what's important, is that like Tobizaru knows, I feel like he knows he did well, but there's just no room. There's no room for error some days. And also, like, when you're fighting Takayasu, who's just,
this is his thing.
You can't deal with this. But this was the game Mitakeumi, by the way. This was in those first 5 days.
Yep. But like, he's losing to Sadanoumi.
This is where he needs to clean up, and that's just the work he has to do. He's
right. Like, everybody's got their assignment.
Yep. Yeah, clean this up, and then you're back in Sanyaku.
Right. He won't drop that far.
No. He'll be like 1 or 2, probably 2. It's good. There's a lot of
craziness.
A lot of craziness to get sorted out here. Almost out of the Sanyaku. A lot of people to talk about. We're not even into the rank and file.
I know, lots of stuff that went on.
Daieisho, Kamasubi 2 West 7 and 8. So he also came really, really close, but just couldn't get it. So he beats Kiribayama and Mitakeumi, which say what you want about Mitakeumi's performances. These are still really good wins, and Daieisho always just fights his style. I think he did have a couple of like extra cool stuff. I didn't write it down. What I did write down was absolutely brutal, which is right here, loss number 8 against Ryuuden. He has Ryuuden dead to rights.
That was
staggered out. Ryuuden digs deep and impossibly stays in when he's
like
just
with his toes.
With his toe vaulted out. Absolutely no way he can stay in. So for all intents and purposes, Daieisho won that one, and Ryuuden just willed against God and Earth.
He stole it from him.
Steal it back. So that sucks. Because right there, that would have been the 8 and 7.
Which I think, I mean, he's still going to go down, but that will be taken into consideration for any future promotions. The Daieisho, he's good enough to be in this mix.
So like for both of these people, I feel like two things. First off,
curse.
There's the curse. Secondly, when they go down, it'll be relatively gentle, and then if they post a decent score, they may be weighed a little differently.
Right.
Now, worth noting that I am fully expecting these 2 ranks to go away.
Right. They were there for a temporary.
4 Kamasubi and 3 Sekiwake. So we're going to keep these 2 people are going to continue to be Sekiwake. Very weird because Hoshoryu you can't demote somebody for a worse score because they both have a winning record. So these guys are just staying put.
Yep.
Mitakeumi's down, all the way down. He's not. They're with a 6 and 9. They're not giving him a Kamasubi. And then these 3 people are cut out. And then Takayasu just takes
one of the spots.
And that's how this is going to play out. Which then means that everything else lower is going to have to work itself out somehow. And there's just no room to put anybody.
Right.
And that's where
better start winning shows down there.
Oh my God. It's because
the only way now.
It's gonna be a weird mess of a Banzuke on Christmas Day. I'm gonna send you a text.
That's our Christmas present.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you a text, and it's gonna be like 12 lines worth of what the hell are they doing, and then like line 13. Oh, by the way, Merry Christmas, I guess.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it. You just promised it. I better get that exact text.
Oh goodness gracious, that'll be I'm looking forward to it already. Just how they're gonna make up this mess. But I always love seeing Daieisho because there is him and Hokutofuji have a very similar. We only move in one direction. We never say die.
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. And there's a scrappiness to Daieisho also.
Makes it
much more fun.
Fires you up.
So Daieisho, good sumo. Don't let the 7 and 8 bother you. And they had to kick someone out.
Exactly.
All right, we are done with Sanyaku. Now we are going to.
Now the fun has just begun.
Oh goodness gracious! This is what's nice when you have a rank and file tournament is that like the momentum just goes all the way down because Abi's way down there. So we're going to be bringing stuff back up well into it. So Takayasu, making sure when he's 12 and 3. Takayasu, I did everything I could to help you out on this one. So when he almost won, when he lost on the last day, I think it was September or July. I think it was July. The day before, I had written up his notes as if he had won. And then I woke up and he lost, and I had to redo all my notes. So I was just like, you know what, Takayasu, that's on me. I put the pressure on you. So this time I wrote myself a note. I'm just like, do not write anything until Sunday. It didn't work. I'm sorry.
Nothing works, John.
I'm sorry. I was like, I kept myself almost like, it's just like, don't even think about it. Don't even let him know you're thinking about it. Just let things be.
But meanwhile, I'm doing a live stream that's titled Takayasu's to Lose. So I might have been the reason.
It's fine. Well,
you should see the picture I put on the thumbnail. I'm like, oh, this is so appropriate now.
Yeah. Well, it did. I mean, we say this every time. We do this to ourselves.
Every
time we're just like, this time is different. No, the signs. Look at this. We do it.
We do it.
Just like, okay, look at the way he's fighting. He's got the confidence. Like this time around, it was he's winning the matches that normally he would choke and lose. It was the look at how dominant he is. Clearly, that momentum's going to carry it around. And then it was usually the tournament after he does well, he does poorly, and look how well he's doing anyway.
And he's behind until the final days.
Yes, he was the underdog. So we're thinking, we're like, all these things, all this stuff. We're just like, then he gets concussed on the floor.
Well, here's the worst thing, right? Every single one of these losses is worse than the one before.
It kind of
like, didn't you feel even worse at the end of this than any of the times previous?
So I was watching this, and I was leaning forward. I'm like, this is it. And then Abi beats him and goes to the playoff. And then I'm leaning further in. And I'm like, oh God, what's going to happen? Because at this point, it's all thrown out. Any playbook you have, it's all gone.
You have no idea what's going to happen.
And then he concusses himself on Abi's shoulder. and just curls into a ball on the ground. And then like I just sit back in my chair and I'm like, that's what we're doing this time, I guess. At least it's different.
Yeah, I'm like, he has a new painful expression for every loss. There's the slow walk. Now there's the concussed on the ground. Yeah. Now this is why, once again, I'm going to plug Sumo Primetime. It's very worth it. If the last image you saw of Takayasu was him lying on the ground, it is very worth it for you to see what he was like in the dressing room in the back. It was very interesting. And they even interviewed him a little bit. I don't want to do spoilers, but I needed to see that because watching it end that way made me feel like there was a death in the family.
Yeah, there is that. So watching the Sumo Primetime, or just Sumo stuff in general, when he lost to Tamawashi in September, they had made a mention of the fact that Takayasu goes over to Tamawashi and he congratulates him. He's just like, oh, some good sumo you did there. And in a way, for me, that helped me prepare for this because, like, Takayasu has accepted that this is his lot in life in some level.
I agree with you.
On some way. And so I feel like he's doing this well, like, not to win, but just to say, I don't need to win.
Right. I'm going to push myself to my limits. And you know what? He keeps winning money every time as the runner-up. So
he keeps getting those special prizes. Everybody looks at him and they're like, you're doing really, really well. And
I really do. I really am at the point though where I'm like, I don't think he's gonna win. I think you might have solidified it for me. However, I want to make this point. When you look at sumo as a whole, if you're going to be really, really logical about this, okay, you're going to lose more times than you're going to win. The only reason why this whole Takayasu thing is a thing is because of how many times he's forced himself into a position to win. Mm-hmm. But typically, you're going to lose more times than you're going to win. Look at any sports team's record. Look at any sumo wrestler's record, with the exception of maybe Hakuho. How many times are you going to win? You're more likely to lose than win. But Takayasu always makes it interesting.
Well, that's the thing, is there are some people that never even get into contention.
Exactly. But you're not even good enough to put yourself in that position.
Your name is not on the lips. You're not on the leaderboard on the second week.
I think this is the 7th time. So while it is crushing and horrible, and I've heard some people say some very nasty things about Takayasu, which was unfortunate, he's good enough to keep being in this position, and yet he keeps coming back for more. A lesser man would have given up by now.
This is the not Ozeki, but still Ozeki.
Yes, it is.
This is so. He, like, his heart is right here.
Yes, it is.
And because it's that same crushing, no way out. Is that, like, now you would argue there is a way out of this, but it's like with the assumption that there is some curse on his family line that he will never win the Yusho no matter how hard he tries. Like, he is aware of this and he has just embraced it and said, it's not going to stop me.
I'm going to do this again.
Like, you go to Takakeisho and you're like, you will never become Yokozuna. He'll be like, it's not going to stop me.
No, I'm still going to fight.
I'm still going to fight tooth and nail every day.
This is an excellent point you're bringing up, is that Takayasu might not be Ozeki, but he's still Ozeki.
He's Ozeki.
He embodies the Ozeki spirit. He's taken it with him no matter what rank he is.
Yeah. It's, the issues when he was an actual Ozeki are still as valid as they were, but, like, the way he carries himself, like, emotionally, it's the heart, it's the mind,
I'm sure people treat him a certain way too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, so you're a rank and filer, but you're not a rank and filer.
They know. I mean, there is also sort of you do retain some, at least some seniority based on your former rank.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine that some people who sort of just touched Sanyaku and then fell all the way back down.
It's not the same.
Not the same. I'm pretty sure wherever Akisayama is in Makushita, like, he'll get some. I still think about him. He'll get some benefits, but, like, he's been out of it for long enough that, okay, I'll do the laundry. You know what I mean? But, like, Takayasu ain't doing no one's laundry.
No, he's being taken care of.
So anyway, Takayasu,
sad,
but let us not forget the 14 days of bear maulings that he gave us. Let's not forget that. So we were talking about Tamawashi being brutal and vicious and manhandling people. Like, Takayasu was like ragdoll him. He was throwing people to the ground. Like, you can hear the impact. You can feel it. You like,
can hear the...
And
we have to hope he's not too badly injured, of course.
A little bit. Yeah, he did have a limp and obviously the concussion.
He looked okay in the dressing room as far as the concussion. But, I mean, who knows? He might be really good at, faking it. But, like, at least he wasn't, like, being wheeled out or something.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately,
Ichinojo.
Oh, God. That was foreshadowing for what we were going to see in the final match. That was... Goodness, Sumo can be...
so brutal. Yeah. So for Takayasu, let us not care about the destination. Let's care about the journey.
And he is going to keep trying. He won't give up.
It may be the never-ending journey, but you want to be on it with him.
Exactly.
End note on him. Okay. Got to move on before we get too emotional.
I know, right?
All right. Kotonowaka, Megashiro 1 West, 9-6. So Kotonowaka has already run into what I call Hokutofuji syndrome. Where do you go from here? Where do you go? You're going to have this dump of all these people going down, and they're not going to... They don't like this multiple Kamasubi stuff. They want to get rid of it. So he is going to go over a half rank with a 9-6, which sucks. So is Meisei. And we are at this point, and this is a lot of my pain with Kiribayama, that doing well is no longer good enough. He has hit that point. And it's the way he has like refined, I'll call it like his patient trusting sumo. Like he trusts in his abilities. He doesn't rush things like he used to. And he's beating a lot of good people. He's 96 at this point. This is like turning into the second Sanyaku slots, these people. And so you have to be like, you need to be like Takayasu if you want to get up here now. Right. You need to be winning, like you had said before. You got to win a Yusho or we can't do anything.
Exactly.
Like we are hitting that point with this crushed because everybody's good, but nobody's better.
Right. Nobody's leaping over everybody else.
We don't have that ramp up that we're looking for up top here. And then all these people here are just falling and fading away. And so the side effect is somebody like Kotonowaka who is good, but clearly not ready.
Yeah.
And like every time he does something like this, I'm like, maybe he is ready. Oh, I don't know.
That first 3 days, those 3 losses, like that's the difference.
Yeah, well, that's just rough. Also worth noting is that he fought Sanyaku, Ozeki, and
I get it. I mean, honestly, who could blame him? But those 3 losses in the beginning, that's the difference between being in title contention and not.
Yes.
Could you imagine if he took even one of those? Or 2 of those, and then doesn't, mess around here at the end. Although we are going to talk about this, but Meisei played spoiler to like almost everybody on this list. He screwed up everybody's tournament.
Meisei was the dark horse that no one's talking about.
Right, we're going to get to that, but let's say he doesn't lose to Kiribayama, and let's say he takes the match against Shodai at least. You're talking about a different tournament, so it's kind of like this razor thin edge you're talking about. You have to win the matches that you're capable of winning, and when you lose, but there's no room for it.
There's no room for it. And this is here's what the problem then becomes. Like you go to Tobizaru, you're like, if you got a couple more, you're still in Sanyaku, Right. You go to Kiribayama, and you're like, a few more, you can start Nozeki run. You go to Kotonowaka, you say, a few more.
You're in title contention.
No, we all can't win a few more.
Exactly. There's only so many.
Someone's gotta go.
Right.
Somebody's gotta suffer the 9-6 and gets moved a half a rung for it. Zero-sum games, guys. We can't all win at the same time.
But that is what makes sumo so much fun.
Then you're just handing out shovels. You're like, you better dig deeper, buddy.
Yep.
Who's got the biggest hole in 2 months? Who come January? Who's gonna get the biggest hole dug with their shovel? Who's digging?
Exactly.
Who's digging? Kotonowaka.
Maybe everybody needs to take a a little field trip to Hakuho's stable and be like, teach me your ways.
There needs to be some pain coming out. Yeah, it's when I was writing up on him, I'm like, oh man, it's like there's just no room for these people. They're all good, but there's no room. Someone's got to start just.
They just got to be the best.
They've got to be the best. I'm sorry.
Do what Terunofuji did. Terunofuji came in, wins the title. He was the last. Was he the last position when he came in, right?
Yeah.
He's making sure 16 or 17, whatever they had at the time. Leapfrogs up, just keeps winning. He's already in the Yusho contention. It was a no-brainer. We need somebody who's going to do that. Yeah. We might be waiting until, we talked about this on the live stream too. We might be waiting for the Juryo guys or the Makushita guys before we see somebody do what Terunofuji did. Because these Maegashira men, like, they're in a bad rut here.
It's a bad mess. I mean, it's also like you've run out of freedom. Like, if you're down here, where is it? Like, Abi's going to have a nice time of it, You got
because he won a Yusho.
Because he won a Yusho.
Like I said, you just got to win a Yusho.
Yeah. Here are the Umi. The world is his right now, because when he gets a winning score, he'll be promoted and he'll move up. And if he does really good, he'll get promoted even better. But then he's gonna turn into Kotonowaka in about 4 tournaments,
right?
And he's gonna be busting his ass, and then he's gonna look at the Banzuke and his name doesn't move.
Exactly.
And then
that's demotivating.
That's.
Right.
Guys, I'm sorry, but we've only got 8 slots.
Our Ozeki can't even make it to Yokozuna.
Guys, some one of you needs to just start murdering figuratively and just run away with it. And until one of you does, you're just going to be stuck in this forever.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're doing on here. And it's going to go right on.
Yes, it is.
Meisei has the same problem. Megasierra 2 is 9 and 6. So you had mentioned this, that he played foil, and that's what's also really fun about all these people trying to scrape these 1 or 2 wins, is that it changes the Yusho. And Meisei, every time, it's that Meisei is getting a little bit closer to the Sanyaku that he was at before. It's that, so what's nice is he's got these 2 modes. He's got lightning fast, that he strafes around, he hits people, he gets the belt, he does the shoving, and then there's this crushing Tachi running into brick walls, Meisei.
Yeah.
And both of them are just at his whim. I love it. So, Meisei's back. Guys,
and no one's even paying attention.
No, what? Guys, he was in Sanyaku, he was slapping people, he was 11-4. God, you...
Well, I mean, he affected Takakeisho's tournament.
Uh-huh.
Let's see.
Takakeisho.
Takayasu. I will even say that he messed with Shodai's tournament, because that was early on when Shodai could have sort of, wrote the ship. Let's see.
Yeah, so Meisei crucial
Kotonowaka, he makes a difference in, 10 and 5 and 9 and 6. Like,
yeah.
He was winning the bouts, building up his score, but wrecking people's tournaments.
Yeah, this is sort of like where the fear really set in, because I was already talking. Okay, Kiribayama's getting there. He's there. Hoshoryu, Wakatakakage. I'm looking at all of these people with a lot of talent, and then like I go down here, I'm like, oh, Nishikifuji's coming up.
Yeah,
Wakamotoharu's coming up. Meisei is like 2 wins away from just pry-barring open more Sanyaku slots and get back to where he was. Because what stopped Meisei before, it was just he was a little too high, too fast. Like, he earned the spot, but he just couldn't keep it. And then he got injured and he fell down. And now he's not injured anymore. I'm like...
So if he's figured something out and he's injury-free, now you have a new name to talk about.
No name to talk about. And these 2 guys have the exact same problem. And they're going to be making sure East-West.
Yep.
One East-West. Is that the both of them, they need to open up an additional can of whoop ass.
Yes.
More than they already are, which is a significant amount.
Meisei, though, has the fire that Hoshoryu has.
There is that.
He doesn't have as many techniques, but he has the fire. Kotonowaka kind of rests on his laurels a little bit. Like, he's a talented guy and he knows it.
There is that.
So I'm not saying he's dogging it. I'm just saying that that's holding him back.
There is a... So, I'm more optimistic of Kotonowaka working through his Mitakeumi syndrome.
Okay.
I'll say that there is a lot of the talent, but like he's going to hit that sobering moment like next tournament.
Yeah.
Where like there's nowhere for you to go unless you start really making this work. And he's also super freaking young.
Yeah, that's the age is what matters. Anytime you see a young guy making these moves, that's why Hoshoryu is also exciting. you're like, okay, this is a potential for something. All these other guys are getting older and older and older. It's like, you guys are running out of time.
Yeah. So Meisei may have that urgency because he's a little bit older.
Yep.
And if he just keeps refining those two things he's really good at, I feel like you can only deny him Sanyaku for so long before you just have to give him something.
You'll be forced.
You'll be forced. And so Meisei will then force the issue. And that's what we'll get to. All right, now I'll be able to calm down. I'm gonna have some depressing things to talk about. My heart rate's gonna go down. I'm gonna stop freaking out a bit. At least freak out for different reasons, like low energy freak out. So we're gonna talk about Ichinojo and his Megashiro 2 West 4 and 11, and we're also gonna be talking about something that's probably gonna be hitting the news shortly if it hasn't already hit. So Ichinojo gets talked about in a big old scandal. It's
been a while since we've had a scandal.
I guess he was due. He drew the short stick. So the scuttlebutt says that Ichinojo has a drinking problem, and the drinking problem turns into a performance issue, and the performance issue turns into getting into verbal and potentially physical altercations with people of authority. And prior to the Sumo Association starting up the tournament, they're like, there's been no police report filed, which is a way of saying it's not our problem yet. And which is usually the case with these things, with a couple of very large notable exceptions, whenever there's any sort of a thing going on.
They sort of keep it in-house.
They keep it in-house, and then they only talk about it when the Yu show's over. They typically don't like things overshadowing the day-to-day, because pragmatically it's distracting, but also like they're just like, if there's some problem going on, we'll address it when everything's done.
Right.
But a man with an on-off switch problem already, compounded with the fact that now everybody's talking about the scandal that slowly broke, and now I have a feeling it's going to
the floodgate.
The floodgates are open now that day 15's over, and then whatever happens with Ichinojo is going to happen, which I'm not going to weigh in on that because I don't know anything.
Right.
It sounds pretty bleak.
It's potentially one of those things where, when I first started watching sumo, I watched Tamawashi win the whole thing. I go to watch the next tournament, and now he's kicked out of sumo.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how severe this is. Mm-hmm. There's the bits and pieces and the rumor mill.
Right, so you can't discern what's real and what's not.
Reading between the lines, it seemed that it was bad enough for somebody in his stable to speak out about it. So there was legitimately something happening, and the no police report basically just means that nothing happened that wasn't able to be swept under the rug, rather than there being nothing going on. And he'll get whatever disciplinary actions come, if there are any coming. All that's going on, and the poor boy's still fighting. So hard to picture this going otherwise.
Well, it's interesting, though. If he really does have a drinking problem, it does explain the Snorlax / Aoiyama thing. It might be all this time that some tournaments he's drinking a lot, and some tournaments maybe he quit for a while. Maybe that was the change in Ichinojo that we saw.
I imagine that.
Yeah, it's
like from a performance standpoint, like I have talked about how he gave up a little bit more. There's only a rare urgency, but like in the context of big scandal, there's no way you're mentally there.
No, and you know what? He did not just let people push him out. He actually was in all these fights. There were some where he wasn't, but he was trying. He was doing the sort of in between Hariyama Snorlax.
A little bit. There was a middle level.
It wasn't Snorlax.
Yeah, when he beat Tamawashi and Shodai, there was an urgency to his sumo, and that's at least a sign that he didn't lose out.
Yeah. But yeah, it's maybe just something too hard to overcome, at least at this stage.
Like I'm just thinking, like if there was, even if this is complete slander and lies, just having the fact that this is going on.
People are talking about it.
And from the one thing that I did notice is that like as soon as Ichinojo was done, like they brought him in for the talk.
Yeah.
And like if somebody told you at the end of 15 days there's going to be a big meeting that's going to affect your career.
Right.
That is hanging over you.
Right, like go out and fight now, by the way.
Yeah. When you're done with all this fighting things, we're going to have a very serious conversation about how you're performing. But no, go fight first.
Right.
I'm like, God,
Might as well go on Kujo at that point.
The fact that he got 4 wins under that situation is kind of amazing in a way.
Yeah.
So we're gonna let the scandal show its ugly face and resolve itself, and then
we can talk more.
Then we can talk about whether or not he'll be here, whether or not he'll get suspended, or it'll be a firm reprimand, or how it's going to affect whatever. From the record, he's going to be dropped pretty heavily, but part of that is because we need to make room for all these people coming down anyway.
Well, I mean, I think a potential suspension is at least on the table, and if that happens, then, we're going to see another guy go down and have to come back up.
Yeah, well,
so
we got to let this all shake itself out.
Right.
There may be stuff that
there's just stuff we don't know.
There's stuff we don't know at time of recording. Maybe by the time this goes up, the whole, it'll all be laid bare. But for now, all we can say, Ichinojo, is that I hope that that things aren't, you're okay.
Yeah.
You're okay. You get the help you need, and hopefully you didn't murder somebody or something horrible.
Right.
God, don't quote me on that. All right. So we're gonna go from oof to oof. Making sure 3 East Ura 4-11, remarkably similar score to when he was at this high before. Unfortunately, it seems that the Enho style arms race has caught up to him a little bit. He was. It felt like he was a half step behind as well. So it's a bit of Ura not fighting at 100%, and also I feel like people they're learning his tricks. Everybody knows to keep him at arm's length. They know that if you hit him hard and fast enough, he won't be able to recover. And he was doing a lot of his slinky, crazy acrobatic stuff, but usually when he gets to that point, he's able to pull it out, and he didn't really do it this time.
Well, that's what you're talking about with like a half step behind. He's got to be 100% to do his stuff. And he's already got, timers on his knees too. So it's only a matter of time before Ura can't do these things. So who knows? We don't know what his exact condition is.
He did break the loss streak, which always felt good on this day right here. Again, against Ichinojo of all people. So like when he got this one, I'm like, there was the exhale. You're like, okay. At least we're not all the way out.
At least we're not Terunofuji.
Oh my god. So there's the Ono train, and he got off of it. I mean, he's still in the bad performance. So we're not gonna know whether this was just competition too fierce, just had a bad outing of it, knees catching up to him, or just simply people are figuring him out and he's behind on the arms race. Like we're not gonna know the long-term repercussions until Ura fights again.
Right. We need to see what happens in the next tournament.
Yeah. And interesting that he's right next to Midorifuji, who has a similar problem, but is trying his damnedest. And Megashira 3 West 8-7 gets it done on the last day. God bless him.
Never quits.
Never quit. So he is like the underdog now, like because he is the super small person, like he's smaller than Ura, and he counteracts being small by getting on his bike and just working himself to death.
Yeah.
It is equal parts relieving and exhausting.
Right.
And like on one hand, I'm like, he's just gonna work. Like Mitakeumi leaned on him for 2 minutes. That is like 350 pounds of dude dead weighting you and also trying to grab you and throw you. And Midorifuji's just like, I'm just gonna work much harder.
Right.
And so on one hand, I'm like, I love you love this. Just like as an archetype. Just watching him give it his all, win on the last day to get the Kachikoshi, and Kataskashiing, fighting really well, just doing everything. But on the back of my mind, I'm like, my God, I hope he can keep this up because I'm tired watching him.
That's some of the insanity we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Going over to Ura. Ura's a half step behind, and Midorifuji's like, I just can't be a step behind, so he just keeps running.
Well, I mean, being in a stable with Terunofuji, this is how it sort of works against you too.
Gotta be.
If you're looking at this man like, I want to be like him, that's gonna fuel you even more if you're the type of personality that Midorifuji is.
Yeah. So good news that whatever his hernia issues clearly are gone, and he's fighting as good as we've seen him, and able to get 8-7 this high up. If nothing else, he's proven that he belongs in the meat grinder.
Exactly.
And so harder to imagine him compared to like Meisei or Kotonowaka taking the step up.
Right.
But I'll say for now, he has proven, more than proven,
that he belongs where he is.
Myogiryu 3 is his home. And we're all, everybody else is going to have to get used to him
and
shoulder swing downing.
Right. For a small guy, keep it positive,
Yeah, this is
to be that high up.
For him, this is a big accomplishment for somebody who this time last year was in Jiryo.
Yep.
Just holding his own against the best of the best. Ugh, love to watch it. And then he turns up the heat a little bit more. We'll see what happens. I just for now, I feel like the 3 West 8 and 7 is a really good sign.
Yes.
Really good sign. So another really good sign. And another, speaking of people who are going to have nowhere to go shortly.
Kind of surprised, though.
Shocking.
Like, it's snuck up. I wasn't really, I was paying attention to him, but at the same time, like, when I saw his final score, I'm like, really? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, he does, yeah. Wakamotoharu, by the way, 4 East, Megashira, 10 and 5. 5 of those 10 days in the final 5 days. So, rallied at the end. From a 5 and 5 to a 10 and 5, which that's part of the story as well. And this is what I was talking about with Kiribayama. It's that ending. How do you finish off when you're tired and sore? Wakamotoharu just
shows you, yeah.
He shows it. He has it.
This is how you do it.
So he's also a push belt guy who's doing pusher thruster and doing it really well. But so the big thing is he gets wrapped up in these stalemates and these belt offs. He is almost always the guy to break it. He's always on the move. He's pushing the pace. He's aggressive. There's that urgency. And win or lose, usually the guy who tries to break it is going to have the better chance of winning. Now there are some people, like when you have those lean fights, that there is there is the fighting of the hands, there's the shuffling and other stuff like that. But it feels like, this is a larger martial arts thing, that people get stuck in the counter stance, and that you have 2 people who are really good, and they're, because they're so good, because they're at this level of competition, because there's like so much mutual respect between you and your opponent, that you get into these standoffs. And this is also, which is really interesting, like when you have like people who are like really good practitioners of a martial art, and like then you have somebody who has no idea what's going on, and the guy who's no idea what's going on, and it's just like they're just standing and staring at each other. This is boring. And then the guy who's the tactician who's just like, no, they're managing distances. You see the jab, and like you have to explain to these people, no, this is what's going on.
It's not what you think.
It's not what's going on. Wakamotoharu does not have that problem.
Right. He's
just like, okay, I'm here. Here's how I get out of it, and he moves. And those are his wins. That is the difference between the 10 and 5 and the 8 and 7, or the 7 and 8. Is there is that urgency. Wakamotoharu is trying to get out of it always.
Right, and dictate where the match is going to go.
He wants to dictate it. He wants to control the pace, and that is also something that Wakatakakage does. That's the brother connection.
Right, something that you guys can sort of get from each other.
They get from each other. I feel like some of the thrusting he's also getting from his brother.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice Wakatakakage grabbing a couple of belts.
Well, interestingly enough, older brother did way better this tournament than...
He did. No, this is going to be like the very, let's see what happens, because Wakamotoharu, and I had mentioned this before, keeps talking himself down.
He does.
In the interviews. And this is sort of... So we always say you're all talk and no action. And like this is in the reverse. It's just like you can try and tell. Him and Ura, they have the same problem. Like you can try and tell this is all luck, or that everybody else is that much better. But you're 10 and 5 saying a different song, buddy.
Yeah, it doesn't hit right.
You can't lie to us about being modest forever. So it will be fun. Oh, by the way, in the Grand Sumo preview, if you'd watched that, John Gunning, bless the man. I already loved him, but
yes, he's amazing.
He called for the brother playoff finale.
Yes, he did. I remember that.
I heard that. I'm just like, someone else wants it too.
We know.
Plant the seed.
John's got the, is a sumo wrestler. Like, he's one of the guys. He's just got this totally different perspective than the guys who are sitting watching it from outside.
Yeah.
So John always comes up with the fun ideas.
The wild stuff he does. Like, he has that eye.
I'm looking forward to the year in review show.
It's going to be fun. There's a lot of fun stuff coming out.
They better talk about Takakeisho because, geez, they never do. That's why I have to do all the talking.
In fairness, Marie Johnson has been back in that horse.
He did actually pick Takakeisho to win.
So people are begrudgingly accepting the fact that Takakeisho is good.
And that he's around and
he's around, he's kind of a big deal. I mean, they're finally getting around to it. And so Wakamotoharu was kind of, also he's around and he's kind of a big deal, guys.
We really need that brother playoff. This is...
Every time, I'm like, maybe this is the time. I'm
it really could happen. They're both really that good.
Really that good. And towards your point, if anything, it's Wakatakakage who has to start picking up the slack.
Right? It's like, yo, dude, what's going on here?
Wild. So yeah, well deserved, and he follows up his best ever score in the top division of a 10-5 with a second one, and you can only succeed for so long before something happens to you.
Right.
That's how it works. Double-digit wins, that'll get you there. So well done, Wakamotoharu. Very fun sumo. The ring and stuff, I love it. It's very exciting. So we will now go to Sadanoumi, who pulls it out on the last day. And
we'll get into that.
So I watched the replay and it was a clean win. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a photo finish, but it was still a clean win. So Sadanoumi 8-7, Megashira 4 West. He is now the poster boy for veteran belt work. Mm-hmm. So we've got Tamawashi on the thrust, and now we've got Sadanoumi on the belt. Ryuuden is going to be taking his claim soon and beat Sadanoumi, but for now, where he is, he's the guy. He's the veteran guy. Fun fact, almost all of his fights against lower rankers, he beat them. All of his fights against people above him, he loses.
So he actually follows the trend.
He is exactly where he belongs.
Yeah.
I looked at that. Now, there is some, he loses to Enho, who's below him, but he beats Tobizaru, who's above him. So there's a little bit of an exchange.
Yep.
Back and forth. But I was going through it. I'm just yeah, he beats Nishikifuji. He's lower. Loses to Midorifuji. Midorifuji's higher. I'm just like, oh, look at that.
It's it plays out nicely on the visual.
It is so clean. This where Sadanoumi is right now, and it's rare because people are usually they're trying to find the spot, and Sadanoumi is just it's there,
right?
It's there, and
take a picture.
And I would say it deserved every inch of it. The way that he's been fighting, the cool, calm, collected, really good mix of all the veteran stuff. I love watching him fight, and we're gonna have him there in the mix because that's exactly where he belongs. 4 West, wrecking people.
Yep,
I love it. So next up, Hokutofuji, Megashira 5 East, and I've got a spin on the 7 and 8.
Okay, I'm looking forward to the spin.
So where Hiro Morita is gonna back Mitakeumi until the dying breath, I'm gonna back Hokutofuji.
All right.
So Hokutofuji 7 and 8 there. I'm very happy to see this because the way he was fighting, he's back to his old problems. So Hokutofuji, I was mentioned before about how Kotonowaka has Hokutofuji syndrome. Because there's that ceiling that you hit that you are doing everything you can, but you just can't get a little bit higher. And the way that Hokutofuji was fighting, by the way, beat Shodai on the last day just to rub it in the wound.
Rub that salt.
Rub that salt. I took very guilty pleasure out of that.
Because it was Hokutofuji.
Only because it was Hokutofuji. I'm just like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, it'd be good for Shodai just to get that last win for the home crowd. And then Hokutofuji beats him. I'm just like, yeah. I felt terrible afterwards, but I'm just like, it's fine.
I'm very disappointed in you.
So a little streaky, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's because he had fought a lot. Well, anyway. So I was worried he would never get his power back, that he'd never get his resolve back. He seems to have gotten that, and there was a couple times that he did pull a win out of just pure grit. He fought Ryuden's no slouch.
No,
gets that win over Ryuden by just keeping pushing, and so I'm like, okay, he's back to his old problems of needing to reinvent himself rather than the new problems of not being able to do his own sumo to begin with.
Right, best to get into a stable state
and
then work on it.
That's my spin on this. And
I gotcha.
We got the forehead blood, so Hokutofuji has once again bled for his sport. And
a lot of bloodletting with Hokutofuji.
He goes head first, and he doesn't care.
It's crazy. That he is one of the insane ones.
He is massively insane. I love every second of it. And so, unfortunately for him, his ceiling is now 5 East. But again, that's because all these people up here are just absolutely wild. And nobody's able to make that step up. So he is almost just a product of the times, and it's just everything's moving around.
He's kind of always been a product of the times.
Yeah.
Like when he was up at the Maegashira 1-4 situation, we had like 4 Yokozuna.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you going to do? And
Where
we
are you
had
gonna
all
go?
these Ozeki, and he just keeps getting swept up into the current.
So he does. He persistently has the problem of just not being able to control his own fate.
Yep.
But you can tell that this is not from a lack of trying.
No, he's doing everything he can.
Everything he can. So bless him, and hopefully in January he gets to start building, and we'll get an 8-7 instead. So somebody else who, from right here, he was 8-2, Nishikifuji. He ended 9-6. Winning record, hard earned due to the step up in competition. He was way down there, gets promoted high up. I believe also proving, similar to Midorifuji, that he belongs up here with a rank like this.
Yep.
So 8-2, he was in the tournament talk, and Midorifuji was talking about how he's like screening for him a little bit.
Right.
In one of the interviews in Chris Sumo, I caught that, and I'm just like, yeah, well,
that's a nice little thing you got going there.
This is we always talk about. There's sort of the team advantage.
Yes.
In sumo in times like this, and now that's definitely what's going to happen for when Midorifuji and Nishikifuji and Terunofuji all get into the mix together.
The Fujis.
Now, similar to Hoshoryu, like this is just what happens to you when you're touching the cup race for the first time. That you're just
you're going to be put in your place.
You're going to be put in your place. So Takayasu is not going to let this SOB do. Takakeisho, no way in hell.
No, Takakeisho was on just as much of a mission as Takayasu and Hoshoryu. It just didn't necessarily seem like it because he was behind the whole time. Mm-hmm. But he had the same attitude of, I'm winning. And then
Wakatakakage is fighting to keep his rank.
Yeah.
So that's tooth and nail. So these 3 losses right here are just...
They're pretty understandable.
And then this is his homework. Figure out how to get these wins. So him and Wakatakakage have the same thing, that they have a small body but impossibly output an enormous amount of power, which is great to watch. And he has Meisei's dogged persistence.
Yes, he does.
And like similar to Meisei, he will just chase you down to the ends of the earth. When he fought Ryuuden right below him, Ryuuden is a massive beast of a terrifying individual. And he just chips away at Ryuuden and does not let up until Ryuden's out of the ring.
Well, even the Ichinojo fight, I'm sitting there thinking, okay, this is going to be Ichinojo's to win because there's just such a big difference in weight. And I thought Ichinojo wasn't going to give up on it.
He put the pace on him.
He did. And I'm like, wow, this guy's impressive.
So Nishikifuji is definitely somebody who is going to just crash into this big old logjam. And something's going to happen.
He's going to parachute in. And take all the bodies with him.
So where with Hoshoryu, him being in the Yusho conversation in January, I feel is a very legitimate thought. For Nishikifuji, I would say, don't take your eyes off him.
Right.
Anything
could happen.
Don't think that this is a fluke. Because lightning will strike twice for Nishikifuji.
Yeah.
And the way he's fighting, he will get that cup.
Yeah.
And this guy, we got to watch out for him.
Yep.
He's so good. So, Nishikigi, I'm if nothing else, I'm looking forward to these guys being a little further away from each other.
Yeah, it's kind of messing up the show a little bit.
Yeah, just 8-7, Mega Share 60s. Nishikigi also gets the last win on the last day. So he wins that. The strong defensive sumo is becoming his brand, and it's so much fun. But he's also still out grappling people, and he does have enough. So like he wins the belt fight with Ryuuden, which again, Ryuuden is terrifying on the belt. His hands are huge.
I know, right?
And Nishikigi just puts the pace on him and runs him out before he can get his stuff going. And he also out grapples Tochinoshin, going chest to chest. Which Tochinoshin has problems, but
still, that's
a lot of sumo wrestler to move.
Yeah, and
even on a dead weight. So
exactly.
that is showing Nishikigi has the power, has the urgency, and then has all that defensive jutsu going. So very pleasant to see. 8 and 7 means he'll be about right there. Looking forward to more of him. Him and Sadanoumi will now have a very interesting interplay.
Yes.
Because the two of these guys have like sort of the same niche now.
I was going to say they occupy kind of the same space.
Yeah, they're kind of the same
space.
place.
Is there room for both of them?
There's room for both. So, is there room for 3 of them? I will now say.
Well, yeah. Although Ryuuden is not, up there in age like they are. So he's kind of like the young guy who's entering into this little band that's going on.
So he follows up with 11 and 4 in September with a 9 and 6 at Megashira's 6 West. So there is always like when you're every time this happens. This happens when we talk about with Abi, this happened with Abi, with Terunofuji, with all the people when they're down low. You're like, okay, you get double digit wins, you did really well, but it's like how much of that was a gimme?
Right.
You wonder. So the 11-4 for Ryuuden, like he's fighting the way he was fighting, you're just like, well, you're beating up those people down there. They're going down the Juryo, so not too surprised. Right. So then when you do well this high up, you're like, okay, that was legit.
Right.
So it's sort of like, not only does it mean he was doing well now, but like it retroactively validates earlier performances. This is what's happening with Nishikifuji, at least personally, that I'm like, okay, this is him fighting because he's good, not fighting because he's able to get away with stuff. And
this is the reason you need 2 tournaments to really start making an opinion on someone.
Yes. So this is where sumo being a very like in the moment kind of a sport, you need to let things go. Keep the focus on it.
Yeah, let it breathe a little bit.
So yeah, I think almost all of his wins are on the belt. Which becomes very interesting against Tochinoshin, and then able to get in on somebody like Abi, able to beat Endo, who's another belt specialist. Goes chest to chest with Azumaru and beats him. Not as big of a deal, but like
still, it's showing his capability.
Put Kiribayama through his paces. Nearly got Kiribayama, very close, and like that would have been fascinating if he was able to get that win. But came close enough to make him sweat.
Exactly. He's gonna be challenging people.
It's gonna be a challenge. So don't know where he's going to end up in this whole mess. Like, I feel a lot more confident that Nishikifuji's going to get up there. I feel a lot better. Wakamotoharu is going to make something happen. But you go to Ryuuden and you're like, there's still a mystery to him.
There is, because he had fallen so far.
And the fade he had hit, even before the suspension, it looked like he was running out of everything. Like, he couldn't figure anything out. And now here comes this Ryuuden who's got this solid game plan.
And you just don't know, like, is this the new Ryuuden, or is he going to go back to old ways?
We don't know, and this is the mystery. Like, some of it is we don't know the breadth of his potential, and this is what's going to make it so fascinating when you already have this wedged tight, no vacancy going on at the top, and then the mystery element comes in. So it's to the point that not only is there not enough room and somebody's got to go, but like we don't know where the break point is.
Right.
Is Ryuuden going to be the guy who crumbles and falls away, or is Ryuuden going to be something that knocks someone else out?
Exactly.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, so much. So much. So
we need like a third tournament from him.
We do. So January is going to give us that vector. At least let us know how he deals with it when it gets really tough.
Right.
So Megashira 7 East, Endo.
I think we've been saying the same stuff about him.
We have in a little bit. I call him 9-5 Endo, even though he was 6-9. His sumo is fine. At the end of the day, it is acceptable. He shows urgency. All of the slumpers, he beats all of them when he fights those guys. And then he does have impressive wins. Beats Sadanoumi, who we were just talking him up. Beats Tamawashi. So it's just like, it's not like he's not good. He's good.
Right.
But he's good.
Exactly.
He's good.
Well, I was talking about it in the live stream back in September, and there is a suggestion that Endo has some sort of chronic injury. I don't know the details on that, but maybe Endo's never going to be healthy, perhaps. That would definitely put a hamper in it. It would put him in the same bucket as Tochinoshin, that you sort of have to pick your battles. And when he does pick his battles, they're good. Again,
when he was fighting, was it Nishikifuji? There were. I felt bad for some people. There were some people who put in the effort and a half. So like how Ryuuden scraped out that victory after being at the ring edge
with Daieisho.
Yeah, Endo is doing a crazy defensive masterclass against Nishikifuji, but because Nishikifuji is such a bulldog, clamp on you and not let go, all of Endo's hard work just goes down the drain.
That's a very common story with him too.
It is
because he puts a lot of fancy technical stuff out there, but sometimes he gets outworked, and that could be either from the injury or it could be from a little bit of a Mitakeumi thing.
A little bit. It's just particularly when you see what I'll see the people who are prone to phoning it in, when they clearly don't. When you can tell at some point they're like, I want this one, and they don't get it anyway, you're just like, oh, now he's just going to phone it in more.
Right, you're like, okay, well, that's the end of his tournament.
Come on. And so you feel bad that, it also sucks when you don't see the hard work getting rewarded.
Exactly.
But
especially when you're impressed by something you've done.
Yeah, but so unfortunate that there's a couple of that stuff going on, but I'm not worried about. I don't think he'll be put on a list anytime soon.
No, I think he's gonna just do his thing.
He's gonna do his thing
until he's he might just say one day, "Yeah, I'm done."
Yeah,
I got other prospects. I don't want to do sumo anymore.
Write him a big enough modeling check, maybe. I don't know. But,
exactly.
Yeah, but he's still got enough of it to keep going for as long as he wants. I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So do stick around for us, Endo. We do like you here.
I do enjoy his sumo a lot.
So somebody else who's sticking around, and this is also good news. Myogiryu 7 West, Megashira 7 West, 8-7. All these people getting it on the last day, driving me nuts. No, unfortunately, we're gonna go down.
Last day wildness.
I had to watch it 2 times to
me
get
too.
it all
I'm
in.
I need to have this sink in.
It's not all sinking in. Now we're gonna go lower down the rung. Very
sad stuff.
A lot of 7 and 8s, and if you notice, here's Kotonowaka lower down on the rung, loses.
Yeah.
Azumariu lower down on the rung, loses on the last day. Very, very. It could be a bit of a rough lower end, particularly for some people. But Myogiryu gets that win, and that's the spin. So beats the big one is Nishikifuji. He beats both of the Nishikis, by the way, which just, in a way, it's convenient because I don't have to tell them apart.
Exactly.
So puts the pace on them youngins and the veterans alike. Lots of power, and doing some belt stuff. He initiated. Did he fight? No, he didn't. Let's see if I wrote down. Hang on a minute.
You got Chiyoshoma and Kotonowaka.
Both of those guys. I'm like, beat them on the belt. And it wasn't belt work. It was just that he was so aggressive and powerful, and he just grabbed the belt while doing other things.
Right. Exactly.
It was almost an improvised belt grab.
He's like, oh, I see the belt.
I'm going to grab it. I know how to do this. And then just lets his power do the rest. And so in a way, the fact that he still has that base of power, or at least had it in November, it comes and goes sometimes.
Yeah.
Myogiryu is able to sort of dictate the pace. It's that aggression. It's the willingness to want to keep winning, and that's the difference between 7 and 8. I feel like for him, it is literally the sumo spirit won-a-mint.
Yeah, his drive has not diminished.
It's not.
Once it does, that's when you see a retirement.
Yeah.
For now, unless he gets injured, knock on wood. That drive is there.
Drive is there, so he wants it, and he's gonna keep it, and that is a great transition.
Yes.
Put him back on the list. Takarafuji 3-12 at Megashira 8 East. We were talking about how he was beforehand. He was 4-11, 5-10, but he was too high. 8 East will be perfect for him. It's where he wants to be. He does worse.
Not a good sign.
No. So
he's definitely injured.
There's something. It felt like he wanted it a little more in September than he did this time.
Yes, I saw a retreating type feeling.
So there's a difference between not being hungry and not giving up. I'll say that. He's always in it. He's always trying. But everyone else is stronger. Everyone else is hungrier. Everyone else is trying harder. So we're getting to this point that his best is not good enough.
Exactly.
And this is mentioning this with Kotonowaka before, is that, buddy, if you're gonna lose on a good day, it's innovate or die.
Right. You have to win what you're gonna win, and you take the losses that you're gonna take, and then everything in between, you just try to make a difference.
Yeah. And so this is a 3-12. Might dump him into Juryo. Now his stable master is one of the more vocal people on the rankings committee, so maybe he'll be spared.
I think he'll be spared. I don't know, but I think they'll find a way to spare him if possible.
I feel like he's too high up for that, but they dumped Shimanoumi from a higher rank. He was like 2-13 though. He was
Takarafuji is a very respected guy.
Yeah,
he's been around a long time. He's got all the connections.
I feel like that will save him. I also feel like it's not a guarantee, and that's the thing. And here's the problem.
Yeah, you never know.
Here's the problem. We talk about how Midorifuji and Nishikifuji are all feeding off of each other because they're all in the same stable and they all got the best training opponents. What are you talking about, Takarafuji?
Right.
He has Tarachiyoshi syndrome, maybe.
I'll say this. Murray Johnson dared to say, are we looking at the next retirement?
Yeah, he's old.
Yeah, I think Takarafuji's been hanging around for a very specific purpose. I'm not sure what it is because
Terunofuji is probably the very specific. I feel like if the second Terunofuji retires, Takarafuji retires.
If he can even make it that long.
And
that's the key.
I think that's what we're looking at. So
you gotta wonder when Chiyoshoma just said, "Yeah, I'm done." How that impacts the guys who are still struggling.
It's a shake.
It's a shake.
But yeah, this was rough to watch, and now nice to see him win on the last day. Important. Again, this is the he's still trying. This is the he wants to be here, or at least is fighting strong enough on the last day that he's not going to phone it in.
Exactly.
Some amount of gumption, which was always the case with Takarafuji, but the 3-12. Oh, 3-12. Rough.
Yeah.
Rough,
he's
rough.
on the list. Officially.
He is way on the list. Hopefully he's on the 42 list in January.
I know. That might be the non-Christmas present.
Ugh, well, they giveth and they taketh away.
It's true. So true.
Tochinoshin, 6-9, Megashira 8 West. So the last day, him and Tamawashi go on a crazy scramble, which was fun to watch.
That was something else.
Another reason that day 15 was just I had to watch it multiple times. There's so much going on. So every other day when he loses, it's somebody driving him back. His knees did not want to show up. And what was troubling is that he went chest to chest with people and was being driven back.
Yeah.
He was in his place of power and his knees said, "You're not fighting today."
That is definitely not a good sign.
Now, this has happened to us before, and he's faded. He's built himself back up, and he's risen. So now we're back in that start of that cycle.
I have a theory of what might be going on with that.
Okay.
If he's getting cortisol shots, they last for 6 months. So you get a shot and you're really good in the beginning, and then gradually it starts to wear off. When you get to right before month 6, you can't get the shot yet, and you're just living with whatever pain you have.
Oh, that's fascinating.
So I think I just learned about this. I think that is what is happening to him. When he gets a fresh shot, he is good to go.
Good to go for another few months.
And then it wears off.
Huh.
So that is potentially
something. We got the next time. Oh, you know what? Why do we need to wait? Let's pull them up. Let's do the math.
Let's see if there's some sort of 6-month pattern.
Oh, let's see. So let's pop this up. All right. So looking 5, 7, 8. Oh, he was on a screen. Okay, 9 and 6 was March.
Okay.
We'll say that. Let's say that was his cortisol shot.
Okay.
That was 9 months. 8 and 7, 7 and 8 and 7, 7 and 8. Oh, maybe he got it.
See the decline
4,
there.
6. So maybe he's getting a shot. Like, I don't know what it does to you. The shot. Maybe
it's sort of. All I know is it takes the pain away. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if it numbs it or what it does, but it just starts to wear off. Probably after 4 months, you start to see it's tapering. Right. And then by 6, right before you're about to get it again, you're in agony again.
So maybe he's like just about to get it, or he just got it.
Right, and like next tournament, if he can't get it, he might be like a 5-10. We'll have to take a look at that.
There's an angle I didn't even know.
Yeah, I just learned about these things, so.
Fascinating. So, well, I also don't know I don't know what this does to your body, your training.
Right.
Is there a recovery period? Is there a prep period? Or do you have to sign a doctor's? I don't know, whatever. But.
It's just a theory anyway.
Yeah, looking at the numbers, looking at the performance, he's back on the slide, so it's up to him to just keep doing what he's doing.
Course correction,
rebrand as Sumo, reinvigorated. That's actually something he's really good at.
Yes.
So not worried yet, but we don't want to see more sliding. So Takanosho's next. Meisei 9E 7 and 8 loses on the last day to Atamifuji. What the hell?
I was like, what is going on here? That's a bad sign. What? Like you could look at the 7 and 8 and say, okay, at least he salvaged it. But that loss on the final day was not good.
So such a mix of things coming out with Takanosho. So he was 3 and 7, having a rough time of it. Rally's back. So he has the rally, but he also has the slump, and he has the losing it on the last day. So we're talking about people still being injured. Add him to the list.
Yeah, he must be.
He lost for power against Aoiyama, who's having power problems. He's getting outworked by Okinomi, who's having work issues. So, for somebody who was in Sanyaku with a 9 and 5 or 9 and 6 for 2 to 3, 4, he's being held back.
Yes.
There is something he needs to work out, and he's not ready. He's not back. He's not ready yet. I don't know what it is. He's going to be fighting injured, and until he fixes it.
This is what we're going to see.
This is what we're going to see, which is upsetting and concerning. And then it has the ripple effect on Takakeisho.
Yep.
And there is somebody else from that stable I think who's actually coming up soon.
Is it Takakento?
That's it.
Is he coming to the top division yet?
He's coming into
Juryo. Yeah, that's what I thought. Coming into Juryo.
So, yeah, this guy needs to...
He's Takakeisho's #1 training partner, too.
Yeah,
it's not a good thing.
So then you're wondering maybe he doesn't do the surgery because he needs to train Takakeisho.
The surgery always dumps you just so far down that nobody wants to get it.
So
make Yokozuna and take a year off. Yeah. I've solved your problem for you.
One quick trick. That really would work though.
Just win a couple Yusho, get Yokozuna, and take a vacation.
Just win out and then have a nap. All right. So anyway, I mean he does. You can tell the sumo's there, but it's just he's not able to use it.
Exactly.
But Takanosho, please figure something out. Or just take the L and come back later.
Right. Just go out for a while and come back.
Come back. We need you back in that mix to make it even more nuts out of this. All right.
Finally.
Here we go. Halfway through the show, Abi, Megashira 9 West, 12 and 3 playoff winner. There's a lot to go on here.
So much.
So coming in, phase 1. So we're coming in here. Abi elbow injury knocked him out of September, so it dumps him all the way down. And we're like, okay, so we're looking at everybody else who's been injured. He's right next to Takanosho, which is perfect for comparison.
Yeah.
Is he going to come back crippled? Is he going to come back needing a couple tournaments to come back like Meisei or Hokutofuji? He comes back and wins the Yusha. So, looks stronger and more competent than he was before.
Yeah,
because he had this mental. He still has the mental block that he hit some point that he doesn't feel like inside, at least from the outside looking in. It feels like there's a limit to how well he thinks he can do, and once he hits that limit, he has trouble. And so he does have the Megashore 9 schedule, but winning 3 days on day 15 against Takakeisho and Takayasu, nobody can take that away from you.
No, because there's not many guys who could win 3 times on the final day period.
Yeah, and again, like I was expecting a 9 and 6, an 8 and 7, like I'm back but barely. He comes back and he wins it all. So he is going to just make a mess out of the already mess at the top, which is great.
Which we thought he would do much sooner.
Uh-huh.
So, of course, he had to, like, completely surprise us. Like, when I was doing the live stream, I've got Takayasu, I'm talking about Takakeisho, I'm talking about Hoshoryu, and I know Abi's there, but I completely ignore him because I'm like, Abi always falls off at the end. Even though he has a really great record against Takayasu recently, really great record against Takakeisho recently, knew he was capable of beating Hoshoryu, but it just felt like, this is not the time. There's all these other guys with other stories. That's what's going to win out.
This was a surprise.
And Abi's like, nope.
It's mine.
He's somebody who really benefited from being under the radar for sure.
He was an underdog all the way to the end. I mean, he was 7-3. 7-3. So he was definitely. They started pitting him against other people. He just started knocking them down like bowling pins, and then it got all the way to the end, and just kept pushing all the way, and that is, not who you'd expect.
No, and we must talk about the playoff. We must.
So now's the time we talk about this. So first off, and to his credit, Takayasu against Kageaki was a little shaky, but he got it done, which was which again was our sign of he usually loses those.
Yep.
So beats a nervous and shaky Takayasu, but still Takayasu to force the playoff. And then it's going to be him versus Takayasu again, and then him versus Takakeisho. So he decides that he's going to need everything he's got for Takakeisho and Henka's Takayasu to get to the final match. Then he gives everything he has to Takakeisho to win it all.
Yep. Now, we've beaten this horse to death, but there's some things to talk about with it. We were talking Friday night in the live stream about the prisoner's dilemma. When you should use the Henka is the absolute, like, crappiest time in the situation. So, Abi used the Henka when the Henka should be used for effectiveness. But it makes for disappointing sumo. With that said, it didn't seem like too many people were bothered by it. I think almost because it was a playoff, because it's unpredictable, maybe people just sort of accepted it as anything goes at this point.
I can see that. The thing is you can't, if he Henka Takakeisho as well, there would have been a riot.
Yeah, you can't do it
so
twice.
That's the thing. It's like Abi fought clean to get in and then fought clean to get out. So it's a Henka sandwich.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
We know that. We know how I am.
All right. So I'll throw my hat in this ring. I was trying not to, but I think I have to.
I'm forcing you to.
So beforehand, when last tournament, when Takakeisho Henka's Hokutofuji, so your boy Henka's my boy, I could not stop laughing, and I did a whole shtick on this, and so I feel like I didn't really need to talk about Henka's because this whole thing was so absurd that it was fine as it is.
It's just a thing that happened.
It was a thing that happened, and then you had the master class about talking about like the honor of the Henka, and I'm like, I don't need to supplement this, but now like this is kind of serious. So there are 3 main points to Henkas. Point 1, Henkas are legal. And this is the first thing they say whenever it happens.
That's what everyone says.
That's what everybody says. They want to say something else, and sometimes they do. But they first say it's a legal move. So no matter what you think about Henkas, it is not against the rules. Therefore, it can be used.
Yep.
Thing 2, if it didn't work, no one would use it.
True.
It got him a Yusho.
Sure did. It was the right time to use it from a strategy
It was the right call. And this is what we're talking about with Hoshoryu. It's a trick in your bag. It's counterable and keeps the enemy guessing. And then with so much on the Tachi, if you can throw somebody off by having somebody think you're going to do something, that is as much a valid strategy as everything else. The third point, dishonor is subjective. And that's
the point that most people would actually point to.
So this goes both ways. So when you are of a certain rank, of a certain size, you are expected to fight in a certain way. And then it is considered honorable or dishonorable based on your rank and size. And so you can go into a big old rabbit hole about, oh, you should, oh, you shouldn't. And there is, considering that sumo is a sport about honor, I think it's a very serious conversation. But the thing is that on both sides of the fence, people will get hung up about whether you should or you shouldn't. And they don't, I feel like the subjectivity itself is not addressed. People just, and this, when people talk, like when people go to you and they're like, oh, you can't talk about henkas like that if you let other people do it. Like they don't understand the fluid nature of the dishonor. And then you have some people that are like, oh, anybody can henka at any time. And you also don't respect the fluid nature of the dishonor. It's a contextual thing.
It's very contextual. I will agree with you there.
And so, like, there are some reasons that you're like, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. And by the way, that's why I thought Takakeisho henkuing was so funny, because it was like,
this is not the time.
Why are you doing this? He's winning the Yusho. You're just gonna stomp on him? Like the contradiction. I laughed. I'm like, oh my god, he did this thing. And the honor and all this context and all this stuff. I guess it's the 4th point out of 3, which it goes down to, this is human sport. And this was my takeaway originally, and I guess I'm going to stick with it.
Yep.
And this is something we were alluding to when we were talking about Hoshoryu henking Sadanoumi, which is you have to understand the impossible situation that these people are putting themselves in every day to do this thing that's really cool called sumo. And all this confluence of stuff. And part of this is also what's interesting is when you hear the way that they talk about, when people interview, I noticed you henkud. What do you think about that?
Right.
And then they'll say things, and we've also been on record talking about how this is there's the weird dance of saying canned responses to things. But the canned response for henka is, my body moved on its own.
Yeah. I made the decision last minute.
It was a last minute decision. I didn't think about doing it.
I didn't plan it.
It just happened. And that is, I feel like that is sort of one of the cores of henkas.
Yeah.
Is that in the moment you're like, I have to do it. I can't do this any other way. Your brain just goes.
Your brain has made a decision.
Your brain has made a decision.
It's what might be more fascinating, this topic, whether or not henkas are good or bad, is actually what you've brought up in terms of how people respond to
responding
henkas.
To it.
Because notice how everybody was mad about the Takakeisho one, but I didn't even hear, and I want to talk about including the commentators. There wasn't a peep about the Abi one. Wasn't a single peep. And that's sort of the interesting thing to try to figure out. And I think you've explained it well with the fluidity.
It's the context that it's the same move, sometimes with the same people involved, but it's the why, and it's the where, and it's the what. And so, like, what is or isn't considered valid will change all the time.
Right.
And then it's the people, and then it's the expectations. You're like, oh, Abi's 9 West. He's super nervous. He's fighting Takayasu. Of course he henkas. And so now,
right,
so like if Abi was in Sekiwake and he henkas, people were just like, you can't do that. You're Sekiwake. Right. What's going on here?
Right. You know what's interesting though? Even my own feeling on the matter, I didn't love it, but at the same time, it didn't feel as egregious. And I think the reason it didn't feel as egregious to me is that this, like you said, what really makes something bad or good or dishonorable or whatever, it just seemed like Takayasu already lost in regulation.
In a way.
He was hurt, and he didn't seem to have the will, and it just seemed like if you were going to lose to a henka, you were going to lose that match no matter what. And whether that makes it right or not, whether it makes me a hypocrite, or whether, like you said, who knows? It did, I will admit for my own self, it did feel different somehow.
It felt different somehow. And that's always this is the sticking point as I'm looking at this. It's the somehow. And also, by the way, like you can have different opinions, guys.
Of course. 42 opinions.
Yeah, we have 42. We have a lot of opinions.
We have way more than 42
opinions today. So before the Takakeisho henka, like the fact that Wakatakakage just henked him back, I'm like, nature's healed. And I walked away.
Right, and you moved away.
I moved away. I laughed harder that time, actually.
You're like, yay!
Yeah, and this time you're looking at it and you're like,
it made sense.
It made sense in the context of things, and like if Abi Henke'd because he couldn't do it clean, then he would have lost to Takakeisho. If Abi,
well, that too.
That's like
that's the context.
That's the context. And again, this is the it's, you know, it's less dishonorable because he did honorable things around it.
It's the only situation, you know, in this particular sport where it's like you said, fluid. Doesn't make any. You can't make sense of it because it is a legal move. If it was an illegal move that you somehow pulled off and nobody caught you, then you could say yes or no. Yeah. But the second it's a legal move, it's already become.
If it was a hair pull, there would be no conversation.
Exactly.
It was just like, you pulled his hair. Stop that.
Even if it's an accident, it's like you're done.
Yeah. There was a hair pull.
There was the Terunofuji hair pull
that you're just like, I'm pretty sure.
It's like he didn't really pull his hair. It's like a fingernail. It's like, no, he pulled his hair. He's done.
He's done. Get out.
And you're like, what?
Yeah.
So that's true. There is some things in sumo that are not fluid.
It's because it's the rules. And that's, I mean, this the whole point. And again, like, this is point number one.
Yep.
It's legal. So we can hate the hell out of it. We can talk ourselves to death over it. And we're not even close to being that. But
I don't know. Someday we will.
Someday we'll talk ourselves to death. But not today. Not by a long shot.
Well, I think with this whole conversation, we have discussed every point about Henkas.
Yeah, I think we can put
and I'll just do my Henka tally. That's my new thing.
Okay.
Instead of voicing displeasure, I'm going to tally how many Henkas occur in a tournament and make it interesting for myself. See if they go up or go down, and give no more opinion on the actual act itself.
This may also dial back to our original yearning for clean, decisive
nice,
dominance.
Neat things.
Like we are looking for that star. We are looking, and in a way, and so because there is no star, maybe everybody else is like, do I need to be the star? Do I need to get my stuff
wait,
together?
is it me?
Is it me? Am I holding everything up? And then they get in their own head like, I need to start winning.
I got a Henka.
I got to win this match. I got to win the.
Although I'll tell you, I don't think Abi feels shame with Henkas. Abi's a pretty confident guy, and Abi's a pretty decisive guy. He's not the kind of guy that I feel like would be like, oh, I did something. No, I did the smart thing. Like, I just don't see him having any issue with it whatsoever.
No. And also he beating
Takakeisho.
Takakeisho is sort of it's like, well.
Which I want to make a point in the Takakeisho win. We were also talking about on the live streams that, I made the statement that Takakeisho and Abi are very complementary in their style. And a lot of people were sort of like, no, they're very different. There's different strategies. When they're fighting each other is where you see the similarity. Here you have Abi, who's going to go for the thrust game with much longer arms than Takakeisho. Takakeisho's got one thing that he can do. And if he doesn't do it, he doesn't win the match. He's got to get him on the tachi. He's got to get under those arms and blast him out. That is literally the only thing he can do. So the second that didn't work, Takakeisho lost that match.
I am going to be interested to see how Takakeisho fixes this problem. He fixed the Ichinojo problem.
Yep.
He fixed the Hoshoryu problem. Now, can you fix the Abi problem? Or is Abi going to crumble again? You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is what's going to be interesting about Abi now is the Tamawashi target paint is going to go right on him in January.
And we know that he's crumbled under the pressure before.
So, yeah, they'll put him at like Megashira 2. And so he's then he's going to be surrounded by a bunch of angry people.
Right, and we'll see what he can do, especially on elbows that have been operated on.
Yep.
So
And so this is Abi's opportunity to put all these up-and-comers in their place, to carve out his own spot.
To potentially finally get an Ozeki up there.
Or Abi's just going to find that the competition is much too stiff for him up there, and it's going to be a completely different story. But he got the cup.
Congratulations, another new winner.
And say what we want for the last, 10 minutes? However long I've been going on.
Yeah, I know, right? This is a long one.
Long one. This is Abi's day.
It is, and it's Abi's month, and Abi gets to claim the end of the year. Like, this is a great tournament to win.
Great tournament for him, and so he gets to go into the next year and just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. I am sorry, Aoiyama, but we got to talk about you next.
Yeah,
we got to talk
you're really messing up the vibe here, man.
So Megashira 10 East, 7-8. I had said under 10 losses and we're okay. I'm gonna stick with that for brevity's sake.
It's a fair assessment.
Yeah, he is starting to get a little bit more two-dimensional. He's starting to fight a little, what I'll say, like Chiyoshoma. He tries to push. If that doesn't work, he tries to pull. If that doesn't work, he doesn't know what to do.
He just like yells at you.
I love that.
I know, it is pretty cool.
Aoiyama, I may actually like bawl
when he does his retirement.
Kaisei was a little rough. This is gonna be worse. So Aoiyama, he would now, maybe it was just he didn't have the opportunity, but he would do some pivots at the edge. He was one of the your original big ballerinas.
Yep.
He would do some grappling. He did a couple of grappling, but he lost those matches. But he didn't do any of that really, or at least in a way that got him a win.
It was like half-hearted.
It was so him and Tochinoshin probably go to the same cortisone doctor.
Probably.
So
he might be getting them in.
So he's starting to fade. He's running out of fade room, I'll bet. Now with the 7 and 8, he may not even move. But at the same time, double-digit losses in January, we may have to start worrying. So this one was this is double-digit. If it's not double-digit losses, then there's no problem, and that's more or less true. But if we get double-digit losses again, or if we don't, you get it. We got to stop losing Aoiyama.
Yeah, you're running out of space, like you said.
Running out of space. We're starting to get to that point. And good news is that March is his tournament.
So if we can just
get
through
make it
January,
to March, we'll be fine. All right. So Megashira 10 West, Chiyoshoma 7 and 8.
I win again.
You win again. Only one Henka. A single failed Henka against Takarafuji of all people, and he clearly didn't need it because he beat him on the belt after it didn't work. Which was similar to me losing the Tobizaru bet because Tobizaru was just cleaning up his act. Chiyoshoma seems to be cleaning up his act too. I'm a little actually concerned about that.
Yeah.
Because it seems a lot of his lateral movement has been going down. Like a lot of the Henkas, he was so good at it because he was able to move to the side very quickly.
Right.
And then he had the timing on it, and a lot when he did his how the hell did he get up here, run up the charts to 4 or 5 East? He did that because he was so good at moving out of people's way.
Right. He was almost doing the bullfighter.
He was doing the bullfight. He was the matador.
Yep.
So the fact that he's going chest to chest, he's just going right for the belt more often, is concerning.
The question is he doing that because he wants a different style of sumo, or is he having trouble? And if he's having trouble, that's hips. I think.
Ooh.
And that's something
that's a big one.
Yeah, that's a tough one to overcome. So, he might be saying in interviews, "Oh, I'm going to stop the Henko because I want to be more serious." But that might be because he might not want to be tipping his hand to his opponents that he can't do them as well.
Maybe. So he did go chest to chest with Tochinoshin and win.
Mm-hmm.
So he still has the technique and he still has the power. And 7 and 8 he wins on the last day to get the 7 and 8, and it's still okay.
I was happy to see him get the 7 and 8 because I feel like he worked really, really hard this tournament, and he needed to have results that match that. And it was a little rough. So 7 and 8 almost feels like a win.
Almost. I'll say that it could have been a lot worse for somebody who feels like is not using his bag of tricks as much.
Right. So hopefully he can get a little bit of a rest up and he's not in the continual fade. This was just a bad go of it. That's the fear.
I'm not putting him on any lists right now. I'm just sort of looking at him cautiously. And also that's the thing. We don't even know if the way he fought was endemic of anything. He can get 5 Henkas in January, and
right. He could be like, you know what? I really miss the Henka.
I really miss it. I'm sorry. I'm going back.
And then all of a sudden he's just looser because he likes Henkas. I don't know.
It's a mystery thing. So Ono shows next. 11 East, 9 and 6. About damn time. I wrote down. So maybe he just fell down low enough that he was able to get stuff done. His Tachiai has been a dream to watch. He's home field advantage in the November tournament, and they are.
He's somebody who benefits from that.
Benefit from that, and a lot whenever they do the Kyushu Basho, they mention that he's a they're a rowdy bunch down there, and
Yeah.
they really love their home team people. So if he was able to tap into that energy, then that would make sense that he would do better. My guess is that he listened to our podcast and got mad.
Of course. He wanted to prove it to us.
And so this 9 and 6 is him directly. I'm still waiting for that email from Japan saying "told you." So for me, the big takeaway was he's finally showing that stuff that we liked to begin with him. The power of the Tachi, the ability to impose his will with such speed. I was just like, that was stuff that we were like, oh, he's the next guy.
He really lives and dies by the Tachi, though.
He does.
He doesn't have, like, everything goes wrong when he doesn't win on the Tachi. And that's something, that's kind of his homework. Like, what is plan B if you don't bowl this guy over?
Well, plan B is to work on his footwork, which is most of his losses.
Yeah.
But it's...
Maybe he needs to go visit Hakuho.
Oh, my God.
I mean, they got a thing
He's a
going.
Hakuho cop. He just shows up with the cup and says, "Sensei, teach me." And he's fine.
Yeah, he's got an in.
He's got an in, yeah. But, I mean, I'm just at least happy to see us 9 and 6 next to his name.
It would be nice if he put that together for 2 tournaments. But, we're...
Baby steps here. Baby steps.
Exactly.
9 and 6 for him. Good job. Good job. Head pats and more crushing Tachi eyes, just unloading on people. That's what I want for now. So next up, we have Kotoshoho, Megashira 11 West 7 and 8 loses on the last day. We're gonna start
once again.
Now we're hitting that point that we're gonna be talking about people losing on the last day because they like their Darwin matches where they do the 7 and 7s against each other, and we're just we've talked about all the winners.
They're testing your resolve.
We've talked about all the winners, so we got to talk about the losers.
Yep.
So his I'll say his ring edge wild card is as strong as ever. It feels like the pieces are starting to come together. He's got the Tachi power. He's got the ruggedness. He took over for Takayama in somebody to fight Oho in a barroom brawl.
Yeah.
I loved that. He lost it, but I think he won because the two of them just went after him. So good. Got to keep it. It's not like the pieces are there, but they're not fit together yet. So I feel like we have not seen the complete Kotoshoho since he dumped into Jiryo.
Right.
The person has not come back yet.
The question is, when are we going to see him? Like, is it going to take him a long time? Was this a step sort of in the right direction? Because, he didn't completely fall apart, but at the same time, he looked a little rough.
It looked a little rough. So part of me was, at this point, I'm like, either he's not going to figure it out, or he has to wait for Toto Kebakari to come up and motivate him. Because...
Well, at least he has someone who can.
Yes. I feel like that's...
He's not Shodai, who's like sitting in the most depressing stable
gracious.
In the whole thing.
It's a rough place. So, and he's super young too. We keep saying this, but
right, that matters.
If you spend your whole time struggling, then that's all you get to be good at. That being said, we're seeing something.
Right. At least it's not a complete... disaster.
Yeah, it's not a.
But I worry. I gotta knock on wood again.
Yeah.
I worry about if he gets injured.
Yeah.
Like, you have to kind of put it together. A lot of injuries happen on like just fluky things, but a lot of injuries happen from you not being prepared enough and putting yourself in awkward positions, and you fall out of the ring weird because your footwork wasn't good. So I don't know. I feel a little nervous about the way he's hanging about.
It feels like we need to make a decision quick.
Yeah.
And he's not making that decision quick.
No, he's just sort of like treading.
He's treading water. We don't want to tread for too long.
No.
Your legs get cramped.
You will get tired.
You get tired.
Yep.
And then we do the dead man's float.
Oh, man.
All right. So, somebody in the same position still.
Another Koto.
The both of them. They need to... Kotonowaka needs to slap sense into both of them.
I know. Kotonowaka has just been so... I don't know. Just so lukewarm.
It feels like he gets better in some places and then worse in others. And he... lost the last 7 and 8 because he lost the last day. The two of them. They went in 7 and 7 and they both lost their matches.
There seems to be a pattern here.
It's rough. It's that half inch. So he does have the grit. A lot of bigger people like Tamawashi the Tamawashi fight actually was like one of his shining moments, because that was Tamawashi who's pretty good at grappling and is just bigger, bullying him around. He resists at the edge, and then he pivots like a good 40 seconds into the fight to like crush down on a Tamawashi. Now Tamawashi had his own problems, but Kotonowaka took that fight from a Tamawashi and put it in his pocket. Like, that is what Kotonowaka was good at, but he just has trouble doing it enough times. Exactly.
If you're not going to put it together, you're going to wind up at the bottom consistently.
That's so like,
or out into Juryo.
So then he gets, and it's like he's losing to Oho, he's losing to Hirodaumi, he's losing to Myogiryu. There's a lot of losses and stuff like that that's going on, and it's like we were saying this before about now higher up on the Banzuke, like when we're talking about Kiribayama, we're talking about Kotonowaka, we're talking about how these people are like, they need these wins as the knife's edge between like doing better or just staying where you are. And this is sort of on the other side of it, where Kotonowaka at this point needs to start improving things to not fall out of Juryo and lose everything. And it's weird. I can bring back the tree analogy, I guess. He's lost in that winding forest, and we're just Kotonowaka. Both of these guys, Kotoshoho and Kotonowaka, they have still not figured it out, and they're running out of time in a way.
Yeah, they're going to be hanging out in Juryo with some other guys that we're going to be talking about. And it's not going to be pretty.
Not going to be pretty.
Because some of these guys in Juryo, like, they're not coming back out.
No.
They're like becoming career Juryo guys.
It's an unfortunate reality. So, Kotonowaka, figure it out, would you?
We like you.
We like you. So here's a shocker in a tournament full of shockers. Chiyoshoma, biggest year 12 West, 2-6. You may ask, well, that doesn't add up to 15. What's going on? It's because on day 8 he retired.
He was just like, I'm done.
He announced his retirement, so no one saw this coming. So typically first off, typically people wait to the end to retire, like Goeido.
Right, they don't do it in the middle.
They don't do it in the middle. So I'm getting from the sound of it that he wanted to be done at the end of September and was basically talked into doing November.
That's what I think happened.
I'm feeling that's what's happening. And then he fights Aoiyama, he gets beat on power for Aoiyama, and he just has that moment. Like, I feel like feel like everybody's had that moment that like it locks in, and you just like have that moment of clarity, and you're like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, like, why? Like, I don't want to get up tomorrow and do this.
He just like, I'm no longer a sumo wrestler. He just woke up. He's like, oh, it's done.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what Kakadu did. It wasn't in the middle of a tournament, but he was in the middle of training, and everyone was like, oh, this is going to be his last tournament. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to even do it.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, he just walked away. So he had that moment. And what's interesting is everybody was just like, yeah, if you don't want to do this, don't be here. And now this is more of a martial arts thing in general, is that you have to be a little bit insane. So Chiyoshoma had his moment of sanity.
Yeah.
And he woke up and he was like, no, I'm gonna go open a restaurant or whatever.
I think it's a restaurant.
He's gonna do a restaurant. He's just like, I'm just over. So like, he's not just leaving wrestling; he's leaving sumo. Right,
like he's done. He's not gonna coach. We're not gonna see him in a track jacket.
So now we had talked about he was fading. We'd expected a more traditional fade. We didn't expect to go black.
Well, a man with such an explosive tachi would have to leave the sport in such a dynamic way, right?
I guess so. Chiyoshoma, thank you for everything you've given us.
It was fun.
I'll miss you. I
thought we had more time.
It's weird. I'm thinking like, because Kaisei had the tragic fade.
Yeah.
You know, and this is now we're gonna talk about death, but you have the person in declining health who slowly just passes away, and then you have the person who just goes during the night.
Yeah,
and
that's
so like
basically what we had.
I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know which is worse. They're both bad.
They're both bad.
But like maybe I could have had that one Chiyotaru win. That would have been like, oh, that's the moment.
I want to remember that. Now we have to like dig deeper to
now
remember.
We're thinking we're like, oh, his last win was against a Fuji, and he just took advantage of a kid.
Right, you might have to go back a couple tournaments, maybe go back in 10 years ago and enjoy some of those moments.
It is now in the past. Chiyotaru, again, thank you very much. Wish you health and happiness and
the best.
And we'll, similar to how we didn't hear about Ichinojo, I feel like we're going to hear a lot more about Chiyotaru in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Now that the tournament's over, these other things can flow.
Yep.
So next up, Okinomi, Megas Hero 13 East. I have no transition for this. 8 and 7. So still on the 8 and 7's stay of execution, but I'm still on my watch list because he just did just enough to tread water, and there was sort of a grasping nature to it. So taking nothing away from him, the fight with him and Azumaru was amazing.
Yes, it was.
Azumaru had him dead to rights. And Okinomi was just like, I am not losing this fight. And he holds on the edge. At first, I just thought Azumaru didn't have a good angle on it, like watching the fight. And Okinomi was just standing there. And then, like, on the replay, Okinomi, it's like, he is Super Saiyan, grabbing the belt back, like, I am not losing.
You almost wonder, with Chiyotaru just giving it up, if Okinomi has his own internal thing going on, and he wanted to prove, I'm not done yet.
I'm not done yet. There is some of that. And I mean, here's the thing, that I'm not done yet was the difference between 8 and 7 and 7 and 8.
Yep.
So similar to Myogiryu, he's just like, I'm sticking around. So I feel like, unlike Myogiryu, his power is failing a bit.
Yeah.
And I think he's not going to have the choice of whether or not he's done.
I don't think he's going to have a choice. Unless he quits right now. But if he decides he's going to keep going until the power's gone, it's just going to give out.
The cracks are beginning to show. We're losing him.
We're losing him.
But with the 8 and 7, he's not gone. He's not. He's
right. We have a little more time.
A little more time. So somebody has a lot more time with us, and I'm so pleased to see this. 13 West Oho, 10 and 5. And you look at the 10 and 5, you're just like, it's pretty good.
But when you look at the dominance up until the end,
so my God, they had to throw him Abi, Takayasu, Takakeisho, and Wakamotoharu to put him in his place. They threw him to the wolves. It took the wolves.
And you knew they would.
Well, we were talking about this beforehand. Yep. We were looking at the leaderboard, which is crazy wild. And we were like, well, they're going to throw Oho to the wolves. He's going to get eaten. Or we're going to have one of the craziest upsets in existence. So we got what we expected.
I mean, we sort of got the upset with the Hoshoryu. I mean, he is the reason.
Oh, it was so good.
He ended Hoshoryu's run. I think that
he buried it.
I think Hoshoryu just was not ready to overcome, and it was too much for him. And so Oho did have, he was a deciding factor at the end of this whole thing.
I feel like Oho, shakes off the top division nerves, almost gets the cup, buries his rival, who's about 20 ranks up, and nearly. I feel like he put a thing on Takayasu a little bit.
Yeah.
So he has so much positive to take away from this. And it was because he was doing all the things he wanted him to do. He imposed his will, he used his power, he stayed cool, and he was, if people gave it back, he was able to deal with it. And so I'm going to let him do this thing at his own pace, but for me, the most important thing is that he's here.
He is here, but I will say he had an easy ride up until those hard guys.
Yeah.
But you still have to win.
You still have to win. So I'm not saying this is Oho's start of anything great. In fact, I don't. In fact, I want him to have like an 8 and 7 just to sort of
slow it down.
Slow it down a bit. Because I feel like a lot of people will be going to him and be like, it's time for you to become a Ozeki.
Right. It's like, no.
Go away. No.
How old is Oho? We must look at this.
22. Come on.
22.
Yeah.
Wow, you're good.
I guess.
So we need to slow it down with him. He's going to go up pretty high, but he's not ready for Ozeki.
He's not ready. So I want him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say Makakoshi. I'm going to say 8 and 7. I'm going to say conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Because he needs to build at his own pace, and this is the starting point. The thing is that we couldn't build Oho before now.
Right, now we can start.
Falling apart. So now we can start. Okay, Oho, now welcome to the top division. You actually belong here. So now get that strong base, and then we'll see you in 6 months. Mm-hmm. 6 months. So being very conservative.
Right.
If he does another 10 and 5 and just shuts me up, I mean.
Well, then then he's doing what he needs to do.
Doing what he needs to do. Okay. Ichi Yamamoto, Mega Shiro 14E 7 and 8. So on that replay I watched with Sadanoumi, when he landed, his knee went back the other way.
No.
It didn't like, it was still there, like it didn't break.
Yeah.
But like, you know how like when you land hard on it and like your leg stiffens up because your knee's going backwards? That's what happened to him.
See, I didn't get a chance to rewatch that match, and I was thinking to myself, oh my goodness, like how bad is this injury?
So so it didn't look like anything broke, but like that's the kind of hyperextended knee thing that can
lingers.
I am worried. Now, I was also annoyed at him. On my notes for day 14 was a stop the fade, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
Because he was right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. He was 6 and 3. So
putting together something good after what had been happening.
And then goes to a 7 and 7. So he has the same issues.
Nothing's changed.
He had a fun as hell fight against Tochinoshin that the two of them were just running all over the place. So he has the gas tank, maybe not to win, but to hang in through those days. Now, all this doesn't make a lick of sense if he's just going to be injured forever.
And that's kind of where I'm saying, when you're all over the place, you really put yourself in positions where you're more likely to get injured.
Yep. So he's whatever he does in the first week, he needs to carry it with him in the second week, because I feel like he gets something happens, like the mental toughness goes, the soreness comes in, and then comes the panic pulls, then comes the bad footwork. That's like his problem. And so, for better or worse, he lost regardless. So it wasn't going to be Torinaoshi. It's not like he was going to win.
Right.
So whatever cold
it was just done.
But my first I was going to say, starting day 10s, just have somebody slap you in the face when you wake up in the morning and then just start yelling until you feel powered up. But now I'm like, just please be better.
Get healed.
So next up, Azumaru, 14 West, 7 and 8. Oh,
still cannot get that Kachikoshi.
Nearly had. So bad news, good news. Bad news, 7 and 8. Good news, he will be in the top division next tournament because he's low down.
And these other guys are definitely going.
So if they're gonna pull a fourth person, it's not gonna be him. It's gonna be Takarafuji.
Right.
He's pretty safe. If he can get any sort of a good score in January, that will be 3 is the record that he needs to reach, because he's been out of Juryo for 2 tournaments in a row, and he falls back in. And I was hoping he'd at least stay with us for more than one tournament.
Right.
And I was looking through it, and the last time that he was up here for more than one tournament was like in July of 2020, so like just before we started doing this. Okay. So my notes on him, like they go all the way back, and he's still not there, because that was about as long as it's been. It's a little frustrating, but I'm glad that we have like pragmatic. It's just nice to have all these notes now,
right? To know like everything that was going on.
I can like dig through the old stuff. I was like, oh, okay, what's going on with that? So he's like Nishikigi, just defense focused sumo, good reversals, good grappling. Now he needs Nishikigi's urgency and some of that power and aggression, which was there like some of the time, but a little bit more. I don't know how much homework he's going to be able to do at this point.
Well, he's got a little bit of the like sort of lumbering thing.
Yeah.
Where he's almost a little awkward in his approach. Like he's a really big, tall guy, and I don't know, it feels like there's awkward ways in which he's trying to engage with his opponent. And when those things go wrong, then it just looks like, not that he's given up, but more of like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, the pressure gets to him in some way. or the techniques. I feel like
right. It's hard for him to match up quite right. There's an awkwardness that I can't describe.
So I just need him to stick around
so that we can be in the 42 opinions.
Yes, stick around, figure it out. 8 and 7s for a little bit. He's fun. He's interesting.
He's a very interesting.
It's a different brand of sumo than we're used to. So, next up, Kageyaki, 15 East, 9 and 6. So I got fooled by him.
He
comes in 2 and 3. 2 of his wins are the opponent's tripping, and then he gets the Fusensho. So he's like fighting Myogiryu or so. He was 1, 2, 3, 4. He was like 7 and 3, and I'm like, well, 3 of those didn't really count. So I don't really know what's really going on. And then he starts becoming part of the Yusho race, and I'm like, I got to check my notes again. What's he doing? You don't get to 9 and 3 on luck.
You don't. You might get a little help, but that's not the same.
Exact. So I'm like, okay, he did something. So I went back and I checked it. He's fixing the defense issue. That's what's going on. So the big thing, the win against Kotonowaka. Yeah. Kotonowaka ain't gonna let him just push.
No.
But what Kageyaki does is keeps him off the belt. He blocks Kotonowaka from getting inside and then uses his size to get in. That's the thing that he was missing when he fell down to Juryo. He didn't have that defense mind. It was all...
I'm going to go forward, and whatever happens.
Exactly.
And everybody was like, well, I have 2 or 3 steps if you beat me on the Tachi-ai.
So he's doing some... that defense-minded. That's the 9 and 3.
I was very surprised myself. I was sort of writing him off, and... he's definitely somebody we need to see another tournament from.
So before, when he came back, I was sort of just like, this is a little early.
Right. Is he really going to stay?
Is he really ready? I wasn't terribly optimistic. Like we were saying before at the end of September and into the preview, it says we have a lot of hope fatigue. Yeah. A lot of hopes dashed about the rocks. But I feel like he's proven he's worth a second shot.
Well, look at what's happened with Ryuuden, and they're in the same stable. There is some sort of revival going on there. Point.
I forgot that connection.
Yeah, so Ryuden's coming back out of nowhere. Kageyaki, they might just be coming up together.
Maybe it's coming up together, yeah. So
something's changed in the stable or something.
So he did lose on the last day to Takarafuji, but it's fine.
Maybe Takarafuji just really needed a win.
He just wanted it more. But again, you're fighting Abe, you're fighting Takayasu, you're fighting Oho, by the way. Didn't on day 3 we didn't think a loss to Oho mattered, but then we realized what was going on.
Yeah.
So Kageyaki, you're doing good. I am pleasantly surprised at your performance. And
yes.
I will be hopeful in January. You get some of that hope that I've stowed away, that we're gonna see more out of you. And the Ryuuden connection, I had actually not made that. It's a brilliant look.
Yeah, I mean, maybe those two guys are going to sort of ride this storm together, and
that would be good.
They're going to really mix it up because they're not the veterans, but they're not the young guys anymore.
Yeah.
And so they
seasoned hands.
Yeah, they bring a wildness to this that's already wild.
And we already, Kageyaki, he made that run for it. You're like, there's something special here.
Right, there's something there. Whatever went wrong is the odd thing.
Yeah. So well... Good news.
Finally, some good news at the bottom.
Move by the bottom. So, Atamifuji, Megashira 15 West, 4 and 11. We need to put him back in the oven. He came out too soon.
Yeah, he wasn't ready for this.
Those are the chocolate chip cookies. You pull them out and they're blobs.
And you're like, ee.
Yeah. So, he tried his damnedest. I'll say A for effort. He does a angry dohyo punch on a reversal on one of the instant replays. And again, when he fought Kotoeko, he put Kotoeko through his paces. It was a great fight for both of them. It's just that Kotoeko had that little tactical advantage. Maybe it was the nerves. Maybe it's just the technique. Atamifuji seemed pretty hyped. This has now killed the hype. So when Atamifuji comes back,
it might just be a whole new look.
Yeah, he
learned from this.
He did. It's that sobering experience, and it's worked for some people this way.
And we have to think, this is going to work for him versus crush him.
Yeah, and he's Takarafuji, Terunofuji. that whole group, Midorifuji, Nishikifuji, they're all hyping him up. They're getting him in there. They'll get him back.
Right. They'll hype him into a good frenzy. I mean, that stable's kicking ass. So
with one current,
yeah,
very notable. Let's just get this
what
out of the way.
What a nice segue that was.
Oh man, this stable has one glaring exception, and it is Megashira 16 East and Terunofuji, unfortunately setting a record in the wrong way. So you know how Shodai set that record for being 1-9?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen this. I think it was
somebody actually lose every single match. I think when Onosho had his Ono, it was 1-14. It was 1-14. He was able to
scrape one by, but Terunofuji. A goose egg.
It might be time for him to work in Chiyotairyu's restaurant.
Oh my god. This is like
it
can't be any worse. I'm trying to think of
the only thing worse is a career-ending injury. I mean, this is something that is really hard to bounce back from.
What a disaster. So this may be the last we see of Terunofuji, honestly.
Yeah, I believe that he's going to be in the whole Endo situation where it's like you're just not good enough to be in the upper division.
Well, pragmatically, they're going to dump him so far. Like, this is the same as if he was injured.
Yeah, it is.
He's going to be down in Juryo 10. They're going to dump him all the way down there. And so even if this was the slump to end all slumps, it's going to take him 2 tournaments to even come back if he does 10-5s.
Right, and I don't think he's in that state.
There was something. And, man.
That's sad.
Because boy got shot on stage.
Yeah.
His public assassination.
Yeah.
Oof.
Ugh.
So, well, and this is the Juryo penalty box. Some people come out, some people come back. So now, Terunofuji.
Let's see what you're really made out of.
Let us see. Will we ever see you Ashitori again in the top division?
I don't know.
I feel like that's a mystery only he knows the answer to.
Right, but I think it's possible that we don't see him again.
It's a shame, but this...
Sumo's tough.
Like, there is no talking your way out of this.
None.
There's nothing you can do
there
or
is
say.
so little I can actually say about this. If you could see me, you would just see me shaking my head.
There's a lot of just tired sadness in this room right now.
Sucked all the joy out of the room.
So coming into November, both Terunofuji and Hiradoumi had the same answer, which is normally you should be in Juryo, but we're going to give you one more chance. Terunofuji completely and utterly self-destructs. However, Hiradoumi, it's Megashira 16 West, 10-5. I am so happy. I'm ending this on a pleased, relieved, happy. I was at the end of September. I was just I was not done with him yet, and now everybody's just like, well, give him a second chance, and then he does everything.
And it worked out.
Everything.
And I have extra affection for him because he was on my Sumo fantasy.
Oh, nice.
And so, like, when Oho and Hoshoryu were like dominating, he was just sort of keeping pace, but I was like really behind. And then he winds up with the same record, so it's like, I didn't pick the wrong guy, did I?
Didn't I?
I didn't pick the wrong guy, so I was really loving. I mean, I didn't win or anything, but I was closer to being in the conversation than I ever have been, and he was a big part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. So he has the same thing that Meisei has, that Nishikifuji has. It's that doggedness. Like every time he's fighting, like you feel like somebody pulled him aside 5 minutes beforehand to say, if you lose this match, we're killing your kids.
Yeah.
He fights like he's about to die. It's fascinating, and he's got the power and the technique. He did the bumpity sumo to Okinomi. I had to look
Okinomi must have been like, wait a minute, what is going on here?
He is not from Kotoshoho's stable, by the way. I looked it up. So he just did that because he wanted to. And the aggression is so good. Now it's still raw.
Yeah, you need 2 tournaments.
He's getting reversed on it, and again, like you said, he's same as Oho, 10-5. Proved he belongs here. Now we need the longevity to stick in, and then we can really feel confident about it.
Right. So we're very happy. This is a great moment in sumo, but there needs to be some consistency.
But a way to end the top 42 with such a high note. Thank you, Hiroto-Umi.
Yes.
We needed this at the end of the year.
We sure did.
All right, so we will talk about other things real quick. Special prizes. Takayasu gets the outstanding performance.
Number 4.
Very well earned. Abi wins the fighting spirit prize, which well earned.
Yeah.
He gets a Yusho on top of that. And Hoshoryu gets the technique prize.
So basically, the guys all got something out of it. I know Takayasu probably doesn't want that trophy. He wants the big one.
He wants the big one.
But almost everybody got rewarded. Takakeisho, of course, it's like, pfft,
you don't get those.
Yeah, you try again next time to do better. Be a Yokozuna. And Oho, he just misses out.
He misses out.
But he'll be getting prizes in the future.
I feel like that. So for Juryo, I'm gonna pop over here. So we have going down Atami Fuji definitely, Tsuruyoshi definitely, and we get an empty spot from Chiyotairyu. So there's 3 people that are coming up, or 3 spots comfortably for 3. So we have Chiyomaru, who's a Juryo 1 East. We have Tsurugisho, and then we have Mitoryu. So we're going to see some familiar faces. So number 4 might be Aqua if they want to kick down Takarafuji.
What about Bushozan?
8 and 7, so maybe.
Yeah.
The thing is
I know that's a maybe.
This is a 10 and 5.
Right.
And then that's a 9 and 6.
Right, he kind of could get leapfrogged over.
Kind of not. So there could be room for them to bring up Bushozan and kick down Takarafuji. I'm expecting Bushozan to be Juryo 1 East.
Yeah, I could see that.
Aqua to be Juryo 1 West, and then Hokuseiho.
There we go.
Coming up, buddy. Also worth noting is that both newbies Roga and Gonoyama
are finally coming up into the conversation.
So, one last thing I'll note is that there's going to be 3 people coming. So, Tsushima Nada is probably going down. Tokushoryu is definitely going down. So, we're going to have 2 spots to fill. So, here's where this gets a little interesting. We go down to Makushita. So, there's 3 people in contention for this. We have Shonanaumi, who's 5 and 2. We have Asanoyama, who is 6 and 1. However, the Yusho winner is all the way down here at 23 with a 7 and 0.
Well, I don't think they'll probably bring him up to Makushita 1, right?
Here's where it gets interesting. There's 2 slots in Juryo and 3 people. So
you thinking Asanoyama's not getting into Juryo again?
He didn't get a 7 and 0.
Yikes, man.
Ooh, I don't know what's gonna happen. Now it pragmatically, you'd say this person, the 23 is probably low enough that they just put him on the doorstep, and then the 2 people coming up are going to be Shonanaumi and then Asanoyama. But keep an eye on that Juryo Banzuke.
Yeah. Things might get a little dicey.
Might get a little interesting. Also, depending on how they want to dump people, you've got, let's see. Yeah. I mean, you look at it. But anyway, so.
One quick note on the channel itself. We now have a community tab. So check it every once in a while because I'm just going to write random messages and give random updates.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's the end of the year. Have a nice year. We'll be back in 2023, more sumo. And
thanks for supporting us.
Yes, you're showing up to the live stream, showing up, making the comments. We love all of it, and we like the fact that we're not on this journey
by ourselves.
We've got just all the community around us, and then as always, thanks to all the people who put all the effort into putting news and info out on the web.
So we have things to talk about.
All right. Farewell and good night.
See ya.